Next on KSL.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A fire broke out early this morning in West Jordan, around 8830 South Redwood Road. Battalion Chief Travis Ball says they're looking into the point of origin and the source.
The location of it, and then just trying to find the source. The fire had spread rather quickly, so at times we have to get in front of that fire to be able to extinguish it.
There is significant damage to the building, with all 4 of the businesses compromised. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is opening up about what he plans for the de-escalation in Minneapolis. ABC's Rachel Scott has the details.
Amid a shakeup in leadership in Minnesota, I asked the president what the American people can expect to be different with Border Czar Tom Homan now in charge instead of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The president suggested there would be a more relaxed approach. We've taken out the largest part of the bad, really bad people, the president said, adding, so we can start doing maybe a little bit more relaxed.
The president wouldn't say when federal agents would leave Minnesota. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 7 points. That's just barely down. That's not even 0.1%. 48,993. Coming up, we still have some slow spots on the commute to tell you about as we get ready for some maybe moisture today. Traffic and weather together's coming up next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Valentine's Day is a moment to pause and celebrate the love that fills your life. Duke's Jewelers in Springville believes every love story deserves something timeless, something chosen with intention and given from the heart. This Valentine's season, explore pieces that speak without a single word. Dazzling diamonds that catch the light, rich gold that feels classic and enduring, and colorful gemstones that tell a story all their own. Whether you're marking a first Valentine's together, honoring decades of devotion, or simply wanting to make someone feel cherished, Duke's Jewelers is here to help you find the perfect piece. Duke's Jewelers will guide you with care, offer thoughtful suggestions, and even wrap your gift beautifully so you can enjoy the moment, not stress over it. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Springville Main Street and discover a gift that will be treasured long after February 14th is passed. Because love is worth celebrating in the most meaningful way. Duke's Jewelers. Love elevated.
This year's tax changes. Better not get caught snoozing. Miss one deduction, lose thousands. Not amusing.
Big tax changes can mean bigger refunds at Jackson Hewitt. And right now, get $100 just to try us.
Don't worry, tax filers. If money is tight, get $100 from Jackson Hewitt, so you'll sleep better at night.
Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Did you know bad bacteria causes cavities and tooth decay? Did you know bad bacteria feed off residue left by sugary foods and drinks? Keep your family healthy. Your smile matters.
Be sure to brush 2 times daily for at least 2 minutes with fluoride toothpaste.
Floss once a day and limit sugary foods and drinks like sweetened juices, candies, and sodas.
Even sugar-free carbonated drinks can be harmful to teeth. Be sure to visit your dentist for regular checkups and cleanings. If you don't have a dentist, visit YourSmileUtah.org for more information on community dental services. This message is brought to you by Utah Oral Health Coalition, Utah Dental Association, University of Utah School of Dentistry, the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, and other Utah health partners. Remember, a healthy smile means a healthier life. Learn more at YourSmileUtah.org.
Because your smile matters.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Transfer savings, earn more. UCCU, love where you bank. Here's Cormac Bone.
Roadway's looking really good after the morning commute. Nothing like we had on the 201 freeway. That's all cleared up. What we do have is a little bit of southbound I-15 delays. This is just at the south interchange approaching 7200 South. Looks like that's in the wake of a traffic stop. Otherwise, it's construction giving drivers the worst. It's eastbound on Pioneer Crossing. That starts around 7800 West and reaches over to I-15. And then on 2100 North, those delays are still pretty long, starting at 3600 West and also reaching, well, that's not quite I-15 anymore, 2300 West. Bad weather and parking lots love GoPave Utah. GoPave Utah loves snow. Don't wait for bad weather. Schedule your snow removal service with GoPave Utah. Visit GoPaveUtah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be mostly cloudy. There's a small chance snowflakes will fall across the Wasatch Front, but it's not expected to accumulate. So you're telling me there's a chance. Highs in the mid-40s. Right now it's 30 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. Eye on the Hill 2026. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
It's probably no surprise that the Utah legislature is going to address election integrity this year on the Hill. It's something that's come up a lot, especially in the last several election cycles, and there's so much to it in terms of signature gathering, in terms of the mail-in voting and whatnot. But what was surprising to me a little bit, Holly, was the breadth of this bill. We're talking about Mike McKell's Senate Bill 194, 157 pages long, and it addresses so much. It's what we call an omnibus bill, which means it really effectively
which is
6 or 8
unusual
bills.
in Utah. We don't usually do omnibus bills. So for people who follow the lines of a bill, this bill is 5,302 lines long. So
Okay.
157 pages for normal people, 5,300 lines for political nerds like us. So super, super big, makes a ton of changes. And the reason it's so big is because of all the different areas of code that it impacts. And so you have to make the changes in all of those areas. So we have with us in studio KSL News Radio's Adam Small to talk to us a little bit about the overview. And then in our next segment, we're going to also have the bill sponsor, which is Senator Mike McKell, on with us. Hi, Adam.
Hello, guys.
Adam, what struck you most about this bill? I mean, there's so much to cover here, but just if you could just outline one or two things that you're looking at.
Yeah, so first off, shout out to the D News. They actually went through this huge bill and were able to talk with Mike McKell a little bit beforehand as well. So I am giving them that as I've been combing through what they've basically picked out as some of the biggest changes of this, because it's a huge bill. It would take forever to read the whole thing. One of the biggest things is, so Utah is one of the states where, as far as I'm aware, a lot of states' voter rolls or the list of the names of registered voters in your state, a lot of states have that information publicly available. Utah, our voter rolls are private. One of the biggest things Mike McKell's bill would do, it would remove that, well, or at least it would, D News put it, they would say narrow that private designation, but it really means you're going to make those voter rolls public unless a specific voter can come in and say, hey, if my name is out there on these rolls, I'm going to face a threat of some kind. Like, it's not safe for my name to be out there.
Right.
Again, that'll be a case-by-case basis, but it would largely make our voter rolls public, from what I understand. That's a big change. Another thing we were talking about, too, is this came after there were some complaints that came in from last election in what would be 2024, where, because for those that don't know, the lieutenant governor in Utah is the state's chief elections officer. They oversee everything elections in the state. And I guess there were some complaints after Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson was overseeing an election. She and Governor Spencer Cox were running for re-election themselves. And now this bill would make it so if there's an apparent conflict of interest, which again, the question still remains what qualifies as a conflict of interest. I assume it would be something like that, but that may be a question for Senator McKell. It would require the lieutenant governor to basically lay out a framework of, if there's apparent conflict of interest, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to approach it, and here's who could step in the LG's place to oversee that given election. Those are probably the two biggest ones I took out of that.
So let me say, There has never been a complaint before that I'm aware of where there has been a male lieutenant governor overseeing the elections. So we'll say the current governor used to be the lieutenant governor. Nobody complained when he oversaw that election. So I have to ask, as a woman, is this a gendered issue? Like, why now? Why this complaint? And by the way, over the last election, they did have somebody else. They had the former Lieutenant Governor, Greg Bell, actually, who stepped in to help oversee that particular part of the election. And I will also point out the Lieutenant Governor does not count the ballots. That's each county clerk.
You know, I remember years ago, Holly, I was asked to represent one of the county clerks without mentioning name, and because a challenge had been brought by her competitor, because her name was on the ballot, and it was on every page of the ballot, and not just the one where she was running for office. And they asked us to change that. It was a kind of much ado about nothing, but it was an interesting conversation we had. It was probably 20 years ago, but I just remember that, and I thought, well, okay, that's a little bit different when you're talking about the county clerks who are actually producing these ballots.
Well, exactly, right. Anyway, there's a little bit of frustration on my part, but I will also say there's some other interesting things. And Adam, I wonder if you know anything about the citizenship ID requirements, because it seems like there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a couple different bills, and this bill hits on it too, about ensuring that every voter in Utah is a registered voter, is a U.S. citizen, which is what the federal law is as well. Now, Mike McKell's bill, I believe, is one that would create the system where, in essence, if you can't present proof of U.S. citizenship, like documented proof of U.S. citizenship when you register to vote, I guess some members of the military get ballots like this where you get like a federal-only ballot, like you vote in the federal elections but not necessarily the state elections in some cases. At least that's what was outlined in what I was reading. But I guess this bill's looking to do something like that where, hey, if you can't prove your citizenship, we're not going to allow you to make decisions in at least the state elections, like the offices here. And obviously there's another big bill by Corey Malloy, who's Representative Corey Malloy, who wants just basically to add more safeguards to where you would have to show, like, because when you register to vote now, it's pretty much, you put out your basic information and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he wants you to bring in documentation to be like, this proves I'm a U.S. citizen. So the two kind of work hand in hand that way.
It seems to me like, and we'll ask the bill sponsor when he comes on next, but it seems to me like we already have that in play. And so I'm wondering why we need additional stuff. And one of my questions is, do you need to show that you're a citizen when you go to vote at the ballot box, right? Or when you're mailing it in, which is interesting to me because you've already proven that when you register to vote.
Yeah, and you have to prove that nowadays even to get your driver's license.
Yeah,
There are certain
right.
steps. Hey, Holly, let me ask you a question. Voter roll. What does a voter roll show? Just that a person voted in a particular?
No, so voter roll is going to be identifying. It's not going to be your social security number, your driver's license number. It's not going to be that, but name, address, phone number, and party affiliation. Right. So for example, for a candidate who says I would need the voter rolls so that I can contact the people in my district, that's what you get. Is you don't get their private identifying information, but you do get name, address, phone number, email if they include that, and then their party affiliation.
Okay, so what would this bill do that we're not currently doing? Allow that to be available to candidates?
Everybody. No, it's already available to candidates.
That's
it
what
would
I
be
thought.
publicly available.
Okay.
So it would just be basically open voter rolls. You can go see if anybody's registered to vote. Anybody you want to, you can go and see.
And a lot of states already do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But apparently. So to your point where you, Adam, where you were saying, except for people who can go say this would be a threat to me, I can think of some elected officials who don't want their information publicly available. But I also thought about people maybe who have been victims of domestic violence, or they have a restraining order, or there's a hostile ex.
Right.
Partner or something, that they might also be the ones in that category. But basically everybody, almost everybody would be publicly available. I would also say potentially maybe some really high profile people who live in Utah who maybe don't want their private information out there.
But that's what troubled me when you mentioned that. It includes their mailing address.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So you have to be able.
That'd be a problem. Yeah.
You have to be able, especially as a candidate, you have to be able to talk to or reach the people that you're trying to reach.
Makes sense. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for joining us this morning. That was Adam Small from KSL News Radio.
That was fast. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about that bill with the bill sponsor, who's Senator Mike McKell. So stay with us.
If you've ever experienced running out of hot water before your shower was done, or hard water spots on dishes and fixtures, I've got a deal you might be interested in. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you probably already know that a tankless water heater and a water softener solve both issues. If you've ever thought about looking into getting a tankless water heater, here's the deal I was talking about. Through the end of February, we're including a free water softener with every new tankless water heater we install. The best part of this deal might be that you never have to worry about being the last one to the shower again, or that you don't have to waste the money keeping 40 to 50 gallons of water hot 24/7. To take advantage of this deal, call Any Hour Services before the end of February. The visit's free and there's no obligation to buy. If you decide to have us install a new tankless water heater, we'll throw in the water softener for free. That's right, a free water softener when you purchase a tankless water heater. Pick up the phone and call Any Hour Services right now for all the details. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but you can't because of bad feet? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help.
I just had difficulty walking. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Do you keep buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let bad feet, knees, or back problems get in the way of staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I bowl in 3 nights a week.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you at high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But, try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program and the Shingo Institute at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. Ever seen an infection spread? I watched a team on the floor of a factory build a complicated technology. Every time they completed a task, they returned to the team leader, reported, and then got a new assignment with careful instructions on how to complete the next task. I asked why they worked that way. That's the way we've always done it, but it included words like oversight, tradition, evolving. In fact, the process was not evolving. A team of observers using the principles of the Shingo model in an hour of observation showed the team how to eliminate waste. Fewer steps, less cutting, less walking, more working. Production costs went down by 30%. That's all it took. Before long, the entire plant was infected with ideas of continuous improvement. Learn more about continuous improvement in an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com or check out the Shingo model at shingo.org. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Snapshot from Progressive wasn't created for just anybody. Oh no, we made it for you. Smooth accelerators. When that light turns green, you're off. Like a warm knife through firm butter. Going from 0 to the speed limit in an appropriate amount of time. Sure, your car has horsepower, but your horses prance around as silky smooth as your right foot. Fancy Prancerton. With Snapshot, safe drivers like you get personalized rates based on your driving habits. Sign up today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Brian's headed to the basketball court, but he's sick of this check engine light. So he goes to AutoZone for the free Fix Finder service.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
where a friendly AutoZoner reads the light in just a few minutes and gives him a detailed report.
No big, just a loose gas cap.
And gets him to the court with a tight gas cap and tighter defense. The free Fix Finder service at AutoZone. No hassles, just help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
People think saving money is hard, but really, it's easy. It's as simple as changing a few spending habits. For free tips on how to save the easy way, check out feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Eye on the Hill 2026. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
Let's continue our discussion of the election bill, Senate Bill 194, put forward by Utah Senator Mike McKell. We talked about it a little bit at the last segment with Adam Small from KSL News Radio. Holly, this is a huge bill. It addresses a lot, maybe more than we can do in even 2 or 3 segments. I mean, we could spend a day on this, but we'll spare our listeners that.
So this omnibus election bill is 157 pages. It's 5,300 lines of code. And Senator McKell, why this gigantic bill? Thanks for joining us, by the way.
Hey, I appreciate it, and let's not spend 2 or 3 segments on it. I think it's a little more simple than that. But sometimes when we have election bills, there's really not as much change in code, but we include those sections in these bills. I've got it in my hand. It is a big bill, but this is a continuation of last year. We spent some time. I worked with Representative Burton on House Bill 300, and there's some additional changes that we are going to make. But we do address a lot of issues in this bill, and I'll let you fire questions, and I'm happy to tackle some of those issues.
Okay, I have some.
I knew you would.
So there's some things in here that make me raise my eyebrows a little bit, and I have to say one of them is specifically aimed at making the lieutenant governor have a plan if she's overseeing, or a he in the future potentially, overseeing an election. So my question, of course, is this has been in place for a long time. Why this year? Why now are you saying, oh, well, there has to be something in place? And by the way, there was last time as well, and former Lieutenant Governor Greg Bell stepped in to help in that spot.
Well, and you bring up a good point, and let me just be clear. I don't question our Lieutenant Governor. I think she's done a great job, and I think she did a great job during the last election. This was an issue in the last election, and it was an issue when Governor Cox was the lieutenant governor. And in both scenarios, they both put a plan into place to resolve any perceived conflict of interest, and I think they did that. I think they did a great job, and I don't question our lieutenant governor. I actually think she's doing a great job, and she did put Greg Bell in place. But what we're doing in this bill is we're going to put that process in the code, so we have a clear guidance in the future. And you're exactly right. In the last 2 instances, with both Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson and then Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, they followed a very similar process. I think there's value in putting that in the code in case we have problems in the future, and that recognizes that we didn't in those 2 last instances, and I think they did it right last time. But I think we should have best practices, and I think we should have the process in the code.
Just a follow-up to that, would there be any indication that this would apply down at the county level? So a county clerk supervising an election where he or she is on the ballot, is there something that would impact that as well?
I'm looking at language to do that. I am concerned. I mean, for example, you mentioned the county clerk level. We've got a candidate in Utah County that's gathering signatures to challenge a sitting clerk, and I am concerned that the current clerk would be able to verify and validate the signatures for an opponent, and I think that is a conflict. And hopefully in Utah County that there is a process in place to resolve that conflict. But I'm looking at that as well. Obviously, you nailed it from the start. There's a lot of pages to this bill, and I'm not trying to make it longer, but we may resolve that this session as well.
And speaking of signature gatherings, Senator, can you tell us what the bill does with respect to changing current Utah law as it relates to candidates gathering signatures?
Yeah, I'm concerned about countywide races. With a state Senate race or a state House, would impact my colleagues. We have a fixed number. So for a state House of Representatives, you're required to gather 1,000 signatures. State Senate, you're required to gather 2,000 signatures. Right now, a county threshold, if you were to run in Salt Lake County, you'd be required to gather 3% of registered voters. And that threshold is way too high. When you break down the numbers, that's over 18,000 signatures. And that's not something in a race like a county clerk, a county auditor, where a lot of folks don't pay attention. There's not a lot of campaign donations. It's hard to fundraise. That's not possible. So what I've done in the bill is I've capped countywide races at 2,000 signatures. I think it's egregious how high those signature thresholds are right now, and I think they need to come down.
I have another question, of course, and this has to do with requiring the lieutenant governor to audit Utah's voter rolls for proof of U.S. citizenship. I think that they just did that, and over 2.1 million voter rolls, they found one person who was a registered voter who had not voted, but who was not a citizen who had registered. What is the purpose of requiring the lieutenant governor's office to do something that they already did?
Well, if you read the language of the bill, let me back up and just say I think that was great news. I think the lieutenant governor has done a good job reviewing those voter rolls. I've had a chance to speak with the lieutenant governor, and so far she's pleased with that result, and it's given her office an opportunity to look at all of the safeguards that they have in place and to make sure those safeguards are working. And clearly from that data that you see with the lieutenant governor's office on that review, those safeguards are working. The code already requires these audits. So what the bill does is it simply says audit is necessary. So it does make a minor change, but those audits in elections are already required on an annual basis, and we simply change that. We modify that to as necessary. I will say this is an omnibus bill. I think that's a fair description. The language dealing with that issue also is in Representative Malloy's bill, House bill, and he has spent a lot of time working with the lieutenant governor's office, resolving their concerns. And ultimately, this language may be decoupled from the bill that I'm running. I think Representative Malloy has done a lot of work. I had a chance to talk to the lieutenant governor, and I think she's appreciative of the language and his effort to work with his office, and he's done that. He's done the hard work, and he's got very, very similar language, but ultimately it may be decoupled from my bill because he's done such a good job with it.
I have another question, of course. So this has to do with making voter records public. Is that just tell me what would be available to people and why this change?
So this policy is coming through, and you'll see it in another bill that Senator Johnson's running. We've got a concern, both Republicans and Democrats. It's hard to manage party affairs without clean and transparent voter rolls. And we want to make sure that those voter rolls are available to the public. I do still have some concerns, and I'm still working through language in my own mind. You may remember my private voter file. My private ballot was pulled out to look whether or not I put a stamp on or not. So obviously I have concerns. I had some windows broken out at my law office while we were in session, and when that happened, I actually made my voter file private, and I think I had a legitimate reason to do that. So we're trying to balance those privacy concerns, those safety concerns, on top of the concern that parties do need to be able to function, and they do need to know who their members are. So we're going to continue to work through that issue, but it's a tough issue, and I understand the concerns on both sides.
Senator McKell, Utah has been way ahead of the curve, I think, with respect to mail-in voting. Does this bill address or make any changes to what we're currently doing with respect to our mail-in ballots?
No, we're going to preserve mail-in voting. The only thing we look at is how do we verify that signature on the ballot, and the bill that I have strengthens that. I know Representative Burton's got some language that also strengthens that, but I'm going to do everything I can to preserve vote by mail, but at the same time make sure our verification process is robust. I think there's a lot of confidence in our elections that when you look at the polling that's been put forward, it's clear that we're doing a good job. There's a lot of confidence in what we're doing, but we need to be careful to make sure that verification process is very strong and done appropriately.
I have a really quick question. We're pretty much out of time, but at which points do people need to verify citizenship? Because as I look at least the description of the bill, it sounds like there's multiple points where you have to verify that you're a citizen.
Yeah, and that is exactly right. We verify when somebody moves, updates their voter registration, applies for a driver's license. And I actually think that's a good question because the Lieutenant Governor's office had a chance to audit their process. And what they learned, and as you stated, is one person. Obviously, it's not done. They may find others, but those safeguards along the way have been working. Those protocols they've had in place have been working. And there are multiple steps, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. And I think that's evident by the audit numbers that we're seeing.
Thank you very much for giving us your time this morning. That was Utah Senator Mike McKell with a really good explanation of his long omnibus elections modifications bill. When we come back, the defense for Tyler Robinson does not want the video of the Charlie Kirk shooting to be shown to the jury. Should it be or not? Let's discuss that after this.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Alexandria Bonilla. KSL's top story this hour. A man has been charged with assault after spraying Minnesota Democrat Congresswoman Ilhan Omar with an unknown substance last night.
The incident occurred as Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was speaking to a town hall, urging the resignation of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Police say a 55-year-old man sitting in the front row stood up and squirted an unknown substance at Omar. The Congresswoman refused calls from her supporters to end the event, later saying in a statement she doesn't let bullies win. The suspect has been charged with third-degree assault. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Tattoo artists across Utah are coming together to raise money for immigrant support efforts connected to Minnesota. The fundraiser is being organized by Strawberry Moon Tattoo Collective in Salt Lake City. Founder and tattoo artist Sam Walker says the idea started small, inspired in part by a studio mate who's from Minnesota, before quickly growing statewide.
It's been beautiful, it's been inspiring, and I think that it's important to stand up for what you believe.
30 Utah tattoo artists are now involved. Your money at this moment, the Dow is currently up 48 or 53 points now. S&P's up 2, NASDAQ is up 20. Coming up, we'll take a look at the traffic. KSL weather and traffic is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 41,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Traffic and weather together on KSL News Radio. Here's Cormac Bone.
Your worst problems are eastbound Corey B. Ride Highway, SR 73, approaching approaching Mountain View Corridor and Pioneer Crossing. And otherwise, it's eastbound Pioneer, well, both directions Pioneer Crossing, spotty delays from Saratoga Road to I-15. But once you're on I-15, you shouldn't see any issues both directions from Ogden to Provo. Are you tired of dealing with missing teeth? Are you ready to ditch the dentures? The experts at Stubbs Dental can change your life with dental implants. Get started at stubbsdental.com today. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be mostly cloudy. There's a small chance of some snowflakes falling across the Wasatch Front, but it's not expected to accumulate. Highs will be in the mid-40s. Right now it is 30 degrees and mostly cloudy. I'm Alexandria Bonilla from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
As the attorneys are preparing to defend Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk at UVU this last summer, it was actually in September, a motion has been filed, and there have been a lot of motions filed in this case, Holly, and I just want to talk about one in particular. As the rules of evidence apply, I'll set this up a little bit. There's something we call relevance, and that is to say that evidence is admissible if it's relevant. If it's not relevant, it's not. And
sure,
so
that makes sense to me.
That you were mean to your sister while you were a kid, or
right.
Something like that.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff's not
sure.
relevant. What's really relevant? And then, even if something is relevant, we go through a second hurdle, which is it prejudicial or is it probative? Is it helpful? Or is it so?
I don't know what that word probative means.
Probative
although
means
I can guess. Maybe.
It helps you prove a point. It helps the proponent of the evidence establish something. So does it help prove a certain part of your case?
Okay.
So, like for example, a DUI, the person's blood alcohol content would be probative to their guilt for DUI. However, the fact that they had a DUI 10 or 20 years ago would be prejudicial, because what does that have to do with whether they committed the instant offense? I know some people would say, well, it certainly does. What's going on here is there's a motion filed by the defense to exclude the video, and what they say, the state's video, it's Exhibit 4.1, a close-up color video with audio of the shooting of Charlie Kirk. The defense says this is clearly inadmissible, and it would be in contravention of the rules of evidence. And I think what they're talking about is that it would be unduly prejudicial. Is it relevant? Absolutely. Is it probative? It's probative to the fact that he was shot, and it actually shows what happened. Is it prejudicial? I mean, this is something we weigh every time I do a homicide case from either side, either as a prosecution or as a defense attorney. Do you really need to show, and this is not particularly on point here, do you really need to show the jury a dead body? To me,
maybe.
It's a good question, but because the jury wants to know what happened, and we can digress a little bit to what's happening in Minnesota and say, are those confrontations? They're certainly graphic, they're certainly problematic, but are they relevant? I think in the Minnesota case they probably are, because they show the conduct.
Why is it different?
They show the conduct of the officers. That's what's important, and you do get, and they're not nearly as gory. Now, I haven't seen the video. I've chosen not to watch it, but from what I've heard, it's pretty compelling and it's pretty upsetting. And to me,
do you mean Charlie Kirk or do you mean Minnesota?
Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry, I haven't seen that video. I've seen all the videos of the Minnesota cases.
Okay, let me just say this. There's not just a video of Charlie Kirk being shot. There are many videos.
Right.
Right. So I don't even know how you could say we're going to show a video, right? You can show one of many because there were a lot of people there that day.
Right. And the defense is saying they shouldn't show any videos.
Right. I get that. I also disagree, but I'm not an attorney. That's why you're here. I just think I think it is important. Maybe not. I mean, maybe that you're just going in assuming everybody knows and you can describe how he was shot and died without showing a video, but it sure seems to be important to the case.
So, and a judge will weigh that. I mean, the prosecution may say, no, we think it is relevant. So it's especially different when you deal with a death penalty case, and I'll tell you why. Because the jury not only decides guilt, they decide punishment.
Yeah, you tell me
when
that.
the jury is deciding punishment, do they really need to know and see the gory details of an event? Would that tend to inflame them more? Would it tend to upset them more?
So, speaking of death penalty cases, I've mentioned this before, but when I was in the legislature, there was a discussion. It didn't go very far, but a discussion about doing away with the death penalty in the state. And one of the things that legislators were given were images of a death by firing squad. They were gross. They were really bad, right? And I wasn't a jury, of course, but we were trying to make decisions, although it never even got that far to really take a vote. But it just seems to be important. Like, I don't know, I watch court TV and they, have big blown up images of this is the damage XYZ person caused. Do you not like visual impact is important, I think.
Yeah, but imagine this. That's a perfect statement. It really is. Imagine that the jury gets in when they're deciding whether to have him if he's convicted, if he's guilty, and then they go to the penalty phase, that the defense can say, well, we want to show you what a lethal injection looks like. We want to show you somebody that's killed by lethal injection. Well, I think
that's appropriate, actually.
Okay. Well, but I would.
You should know what you're doing.
That's a good point. I'm glad we brought that up, because that would not be admissible. That's not something that they're entitled to know about, because it would change the dynamic. It would make them look at a case maybe a little differently. And I know that we want them to not just consider everything in just a pure vacuum, but we want them to consider the case based on the evidence that's presented before them, and not necessarily. I mean, there's no question that Charlie Kirk was killed. There's no question that he was killed by a firearm.
Right.
There's no question that he was shot in the neck. And I think the defense will stipulate to all that. It's not a what happened case. So watching a video of those three things doesn't help you decide that occurred, because I would.
Well, sure, that occurred.
I think you put the medical examiner on that stand and they say, I examined the body, he died of a gunshot wound.
So this is specific to the video. Would they be able to show still images?
Well, I think
can you make stills off of the video?
I think you could show still images of Charlie Kirk speaking, being present, and maybe being carted away. I think what they don't want to show is the actual instant where the bullet entered and exited his body, because that's pretty graphic. And I think that
saw videos. I know.
Right.
It is.
Right. I mean, my son saw. He's a doctor, and he said, "Dad, this was really upsetting." Well, you don't want a jury seeing something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just wearing my defense attorney hat a little too much. Today.
No.
Because when I was a prosecutor, I probably would have wanted the jury to see that. But if the purpose of it is to prove a fact that's maybe in dispute, it's absolutely relevant. But if it's to accent a fact that's not in dispute, that could cause, undue prejudice to a jury, then it's not relevant.
I understand what you're saying. Good thing I'm not an attorney.
Good thing you're not a judge. Actually, I think you'd be great at both, because you're so insightful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm just taking a position. I'm not saying...
No. I don't know all the legal ins and outs of that. It just makes sense to me that they would show a video of Charlie Kirk being shot. But also what you're saying makes sense. That makes sense, too. I get that. I think it makes sense to show the jury how people die when you decide to put them to death in the state of Utah. And especially if Senator Mike Lee can do a public execution, you better darn well know what you're getting into.
Yeah, no,
which is not going to happen.
That's a different question, but it's a very related question. It really is. I mean, should a jury see the person being murdered? I don't know. That's a trouble. Should the jury see the person being executed by the state? That's another thing that
I know it's a totally different question.
That's a hard line. That's not going to be shown. Like you said, you saw a video of somebody being
not
executed.
Video. I saw there were still images after the fact
of a person.
It was not a video.
Who was killed by a
firing squad.
Firing squad. Yeah. I mean, if I was a defense attorney and there was a firing squad case, I would absolutely want the jury to see that. Because they would go, I don't want to be part of that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the whole probative prejudicial argument.
Yeah.
Is it helpful in deciding a fact, or is it something that would inflame someone to decide something based on something other than just what they're hearing in court?
We do have a texter that agrees with me, by the way. They just say the video is very relevant because his kids were there, right?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I'm not saying it's a slam dunk for the defense. I think it's a close case, and I think the judge is going to look at it and weigh it and decide whether it's unduly prejudicial.
There's all kinds of stuff, right? And I don't know. I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of the legal profession, but I do sometimes hear court cases where they say, well, that evidence is inadmissible. And I do sometimes wonder because it seems so relevant to the case. But I understand what you're saying, so I appreciate that.
Keep your eye on the prize and let the jury decide the evidence based on what they hear from the witnesses and not necessarily something that's going to upset them.
All right, here's another question for you. You have a license to practice law, right?
Yes, it's still good.
I used to have a license to practice as a nurse, and I used to have one to practice as a midwife. But there's a Utah lawmaker who wants to crack down on people practicing law without a license. So I'm really curious to talk to this lawmaker. It's Representative Lubay about what prompted this bill and how big of a problem it is. Stay with us.
Are you looking to upgrade your home this year? Advanced Window Products is your local window and door manufacturer that sells direct to the public.
That's right, celebrating 40 years serving Utah since 1986. And right now, it's the New Year, New Window sale. Get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more.
Our windows are made right here in Salt Lake City. Sales and installation are all in-house, meaning no middleman markups. You get the most affordable, high-quality custom windows in the state.
We build it, we install it, and we guarantee it for life.
Every window comes with a lifetime warranty, labor, glass, and parts included, serviced by our local team, and the warranty is transferable to the next homeowner.
Financing is available too. Save now, pay later, with payments as low as $150 a month.
Buy local and support the local economy. Don't wait. Buy 10 windows or more and get $2,500 off. Beat the rush and call today.
Call us at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit us at advancedwindows.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
The boat buying event you've been waiting for.
The Boat Show and Water Sports Expo, January 29th through February 1st.
Fun for the whole family. Don't miss the reptile show with scales and tails.
Watch the BMX pros perform.
Buy the boat of your dreams.
Register to win a 5-day Alaskan fishing trip.
ABC4 Utah and CW30 invite you to the Boat Show and Water Sports Expo, January 29th through February 1st.
Save $2 at UtahBoatShow.com.
The boat show is here, better climb aboard.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You taught me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud as you have made me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
At CertaPro Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights, at home or at work. We'll make your happy place your own. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
I'm looking at a bill that's being sponsored by Representative Anthony Loubet entitled Unauthorized Practice of Law Amendment. So it tends to codify and help us understand what we call the unauthorized practice of law. And you mentioned that you had a license to practice as a nurse. Or a nurse
First
midwife.
as a nurse,
yes,
and then as a direct entry midwife. Two different things.
And you probably got an appreciation for the value of having a license to do that.
Well, the reason I got involved in politics was so that I could get a license to practice legally as a midwife, because we had a midwife arrested for practicing medicine without a license, and we're like, oh, that's not right.
Right, and so the same applies with the practice of law. So
Right.
to me, I think it makes a lot of sense to help us understand what the unauthorized practice of law is. But to help us understand the bill, let's bring in our bill sponsor, Anthony Loubet, who happens to be an attorney as well. Anthony, thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I appreciate you and I chatted a little bit via text earlier today. What brought this on?
I was having a conversation with a member of the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee with the bar, and I was noticing within cases that for my clients that I was seeing an increase of family members that felt like they should be able to represent their family member in cases. And so a lot of people that were joining lawsuits that were not attorneys, but trying to pretend like they were one, and filing things that were just completely frivolous and just wasting the court's time and my client's money. And the process to have them removed is not very clear. And so it became every judge would handle it a little bit differently. And some of the judges felt like they had more discretion than others. And in talking with him, he expressed that the bar was having similar issues as well in trying to enforce it based off of the way the statute was currently written.
That's so interesting to me. I guess I hadn't thought about family members who were not attorneys wanting to weigh in. That's somehow different than like an amicus brief, right? A friend of the court thing. You don't have to be an attorney to file that, do you? Or do you?
I would think you probably do, and I'm not trying to put Anthony on the spot here, but I think if you file something with the court, you should be an attorney. And what happened? So he mentioned something, and I appreciate this, that I hadn't dealt with before, and that is third parties filing things or doing things to further a case or to be involved in a case. In the criminal world, that doesn't happen. But Anthony, you're saying it does, and the bar has indicated that they think it's a problem that needs to be addressed. Correct?
Correct.
So you also put a criminal hook on this. Is that new? Was unauthorized practice of law criminalized by this bill when it hadn't been before?
Correct. Yeah. So when we were working through this, we were looking at neighboring states to see how other jurisdictions handle and enforce the practice of law. And one of the things that we noticed is a lot of jurisdictions also have a criminal component. And a part of it, too, is that in some of these situations, people are severely injured, both monetarily or potentially physically. And so they wanted to make sure that there was some kind of criminal component that the AG's office could determine whether to bring criminal charges in certain situations.
So this bill is up this afternoon, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is the sense you're getting from your colleagues on the Hill about this issue?
As I've been talking with my colleagues, I think they shared similar sentiment as to Greg of kind of a little bit of shock of like, oh, we didn't realize this was a problem. Those that are attorneys that I've talked to, they get it because they've actually been seeing a similar thing in some of the cases that they've been involved in. And so I think there's been a lot of support to try to I say beef up the law to make it a little bit clearer so that the bar knows what the remedies they can try to seek. Judges know what their options are and what standards apply. And then the AG's office knows under what situations they can now go after individuals criminally.
I think it's interesting, Representative Lube, because I know on the Hill there are actually a number of bills that would decrease licensing requirements or even give alternative paths to practice without a license. And you have one that goes the other direction. So I'm wondering if you might see a little bit of pushback today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. In my conversation so far, it's been positive, but sometimes you hear things in a committee that you weren't expecting. So we'll see how it goes.
My experience, Anthony, and I represent a lot of attorneys you may or may not know who get in trouble with the bar. And when I deal with unauthorized practice of law, and I think your bill would not cause a problem with this. I don't mean to suggest that it would, but a lot of attorneys forget to take their CLE, their continuing legal education. They don't pay their bar dues, and so the bar suspends them, but they continue practicing. And I would assume that most of our prosecuting attorneys wouldn't consider that criminal because it's not. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I guess if you know you're doing it, but this is just as a rhetorical question. I don't know if it requires an answer, but that's when I see unauthorized practice of law as these dummies. I'm going, dude, just pay your bar dues. Just pay your bar dues. Take your classes and keep your license active.
Right, and from my experience too, I mean, the bar seems to be willing to work with those individuals, right, as long as they're communicating and they'll work at making sure there's some sort of plan to get those in so that they can be current.
Let me ask you, Representative, if you're okay to spring this on you. Do you have other bills that you're working on the Hill this year that we should talk about?
I mean, I love all my bills equally, so
okay.
They're like my children. But there's a few that I'm working on, legal related. So if you want to know more legal related ones, otherwise, as things come up and you think that they're interesting, I'm happy to talk about them.
Do you have any bills legal related that deal with the paralegals and what they can and can't do?
I don't.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
I see that you're going to be the floor sponsor for Senator Weiler's Alienation of Affection bill. So we've talked with him several times on this show, but it's that one was something that I learned. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's been interesting going through the code. I mean, I had a bill a couple years ago to revise the interracial marriage statute that we had on the books. And so there's just these codes that we have that people don't really enforce, and so they never get a lot of attention. Then once we look at it, we're like, well, why is this still on the books? And so this is just part of a big cleanup effort of trying to modernize our code.
Yeah, and that one, I think, Representative, is to do away with alienation of affections as a cause of action. In other words, person under Utah law can currently sue for that. I don't know if you've ever dealt with those, but they're a huge hassle. but under this bill, they you couldn't bring an action under that, correct?
Right.
All right.
We also spoke with him about, and I don't know if you were involved in this one, the bill involving doing away with the common law marriage. Are you involved in that at all, or do you have an opinion about that one?
I'm not involved in it. I'll have to look at it. I remember that there was some of the considerations for having the law in the past was because in the event like somebody was in a plural marriage, there would be some sort of rights to, second, third, fourth wives that they may not have been entitled to since they weren't the primary wife. I don't know how much that's still a factor, but I know that was some of the motivation for the bill or for the law in the beginning. So that'll be something I'll be curious and I'll look more into.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us, especially on short notice this morning, and for being so responsive to me to say, hey, can you come join us in a few minutes?
I have one really quick question this is from a texter. And would your bill about practicing law without a license, does that somehow intersect with AI, with people maybe using ChatGPT to get legal something or other?
Boy, that's a tough question, Anthony.
Yes, but it's one that I've had conversations about. It's right now, no, but that is a topic because as AI is becoming more and more used, there is questions about at what point in time does it constitute the practice of law with these AI systems, and what do we do? So this was cleaning it up in regards to individuals, but I think that is a broader conversation that is going to be happening a lot more within the next year or two.
Yeah, that's a really interesting conversation.
Good question. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
And when we come back, when is a motor vehicle not a motor vehicle? We're trying to decide what to do with and how to pigeonhole e-bikes. It's an interesting legislation that's being proposed and that breaks down how we define what is a motor vehicle and what's not. We'll be back after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall spent a good amount of her State of the City address talking about immigration. The mayor says there is no place in the city for an ICE detention facility and called out the tactics used by federal immigration officials.
Community safer. They're creating chaos. They are eroding trust in law enforcement. They're resulting in the death of Americans exercising their constitutional rights, and they have no place in the America that I call home.
She says she is prepared to use all the tools in her reach to protect the values of Salt Lake City and the dignity of its residents. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has also been talking about immigration. He says the state has done a good job of trying to balance the rule of law with treating everyone with dignity and respect. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his wife paid a visit today to a memorial for the man killed in a shooting involving an immigration official. He was asked about President Trump saying the role of federal officials could be reduced in the coming days in Minneapolis.
I'm not so interested in a shift of tone. We just need them out of here, and we need accountability for what's happened.
That's Alex Preddy, was shot and killed on January 24th. Your money at this moment. Market's essentially flat right now. Nobody is up or down more than about 0.1%, so we'll leave it there for the moment. Coming up, a tiny storm moving through. We'll see if we get any snow. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or back problems, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And how about working more comfortably, like Dennis?
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. I could do my job and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow's gonna be. It's gonna be positive.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
A family office is a team built to handle the three biggest financial responsibilities a family faces: wealth management, tax strategy, and estate planning. Most firms only manage your investments and refer the rest out, hoping everyone stays aligned. At Trajan, we built something different. Your wealth, tax planning, and estate planning are handled together inside one firm under one roof. There's no guessing whether your CPA, advisor, and estate attorney are truly in sync, because our team works together every day on your behalf. When your financial life becomes more complex, your advice should become more coordinated, not more fragmented. One plan, one trusted team. Call Trajan today, 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Trajan Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Additional services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures and accreditation at TrajanWealth.com.
For years I've said this, when it comes to the person you love, there are 3 dates you never, ever want to forget or overlook. 1, birthday. 2, anniversary. 3, it's Valentine's Day. And the perfect place to celebrate Valentine's Day with the one you love, it's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. First of all, of course, the best food you have ever had. But the ambiance, the wait service is absolutely incredible. And we have 2 locations. One, Hotel Park City, up in the mountains after a day of skiing. That would be perfect. And of course, also in downtown Salt Lake City at 275 South West Temple. The steaks are divine. You're going to love the seafood dishes, poultry, whatever it is, cooked to perfection at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Be sure to make your reservations now for Valentine's Day.
Traffic and weather together on KSL News Radio, brought to you by UCCU. Transfer savings, earn more. UCCU, love where you bank. Let's check in with Cormac Bone.
UDOT reporting road maintenance southbound State Street just after North Temple. You're going to see those cones blocking that right lane. Otherwise, roadways looking really good and calm and quiet all across the Wasatch Front. No accidents or delays on any of your major freeways or main secondaries. Join Ovation Homes Fall in Love with Your Home event February 14th, hosted by KSL's Greenhouse Show live in West Point and Waffle Love at Sadie's Glen in Syracuse. For details, visit OvationHomesUtah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Small storm will pass through northern Utah today. It's going to maybe drop some snowflakes this afternoon, but then change over to rain, but it's going to be dry over the next 7 days after that. Our high today, 44. Right now, you've got cloudy skies and 33. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Before we go to e-bikes, I made a mistake here. We're talking about an incident that occurred just a year ago tomorrow. That was when an American Airlines jet crashed into a military helicopter outside Washington, D.C., killing 67 people. I had almost forgotten about this.
Right.
But
terrible.
Now the National Transportation Safety Board is pointing to a series of systematic failures that caused this crash.
This was preventable. This was 100% preventable.
That was NTSB Board Chair Jennifer Homedy. And so anytime, obviously, when something like this happened, the NTSB comes in, does an investigation. This is one, it was a military helicopter that hit a passenger jet. It was just awful.
Right. And we do remember that. And sometimes it surprises me how long it takes for an investigation to find out. But I think when they talked yesterday that, first of all, it was 100% preventable. But second of all, some of the preliminary data shows a possible cause, and then we'll talk about how it could have been prevented.
Right. We're learning more about the preliminary data that NTSB shows caused that possible cause. And here's ABC transportation correspondent Gio Benitez with this story.
The NTSB is pointing to a series of systemic failures that caused the deadly crash between an American Airlines flight and a Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac. 67 people killed almost exactly a year ago.
This was preventable. This was 100% preventable.
The NTSB sharing these cockpit simulations demonstrating what the pilots likely saw on that January night, moments before the crash. From the chopper, we see that purple circle in the distance. That's the American Airlines flight. It appears to look like a light. Then, suddenly, the jet appears to be in view, but it was too late. It was also hard for that American Airlines flight making its final approach to see the Black Hawk circled in the distance. Seconds later, the impact. Investigators saying the air traffic controller told the chopper to pass behind the plane, but because of a transmission issue, the chopper crew never heard the command. Controllers had been sounding the alarm about traffic at Reagan National for years, and during a lengthy NTSB board hearing today, investigators slammed the FAA for ignoring the warnings.
How is it that no one, absolutely no one, in the FAA did the work to figure out there was only 75 feet, at best, 75 feet of vertical separation.
And David, last week the FAA made a permanent change saying that helicopters and planes can no longer share that same airspace around that airport.
I think one of the things that's interesting is two different organizations, right? So you have NTSB, and then you also have the FAA, and that was a pretty pointed comment. How is it that they never did anything?
Right, and what she said was that a $400 GPS device could have prevented this. It's called an ADSB in. I don't know exactly what that is, but they recommended that be in aircraft. I assume that it will be from now on. But I mean, this she goes on and on. I mean, it could have absolutely 100% preventable.
Yeah, I'm looking at an Associated Press article really talking about this meeting that they had yesterday. And NTSB chairwoman Jennifer Homendy, as we heard several of the clips, she says this: we should be angry. We should be angry. This was 100% preventable. We issued recommendations in the past that were applicable to use. We've talked about seeing and avoiding for well over 5 decades. It's shameful, right? And it's like, wow, I mean, she was pulling no punches. But here you had 87 people die, and now it's like, we should do something. The Army has installed that GPS device, that $400 GPS device.
Yeah, and they also interviewed the air traffic controller who was responsible at the time and indicated that person felt a little overwhelmed when traffic volume increased to 10 aircraft in 10 or 15 minutes. They kind of got over his or her head a little bit and felt that the volume was manageable when 1 or 2 helicopters left, but obviously that didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
They were feeling like they had things under control. And, you know, I do think that we do. I mean, I feel safe when I get in an aircraft. I always do. But anything like this can happen.
Do you remember people on the plane? There were 28 members of the figure skating community. Do you remember that? They were going to like a performance or something, or they were just leaving. I can't remember, but yeah, it was just so tragic. They had members of victims' families who were at the hearing. Some of them had to be escorted out just because they were so emotional at seeing this animation that we just heard described on that soundbite. But it's, again, Jennifer Homendy pulled no punches, man. She's like, we've been telling you this. I mean, it brings out the mom voice. It's like, I told you this. We've told you this for more than 50 years. And now 67 people had died.
You don't usually think of military and civilian aircraft traveling in the same airspace. I mean, here in Utah, our Hill Air Force Base is far enough away from the Salt Lake International Airport that you don't think of that. I mean, of course, a jet can travel that distance in seconds, but we don't really think of that as being a problem. So it's hard for me to imagine why a military helicopter was flying at a same place where American Airlines jet was coming in for a landing.
They've changed the flight path now, but
no question. I mean, and you can only imagine what the 2 pilots of those aircraft suffered in the last few seconds when they realized there was nothing they could do. I mean, and you look at some dot in the future, and you think that, or at least in the foreground,
and then it's right there,
and then suddenly it's right there, and you're listening to the ground people saying, "Hey, you're safe to go."
This is still the Associated Press article. They also had Mary Shivo. I think that's how you say her name, a former Department of Transportation Inspector General. She said she was speaking specifically to the FAA and how many times they did not act, and she said it was a shocking dereliction of duty by the FAA. They have so much work to be done to fix it. And just from my background, she says, I don't know if they're up to it. Wow.
Yeah, and what we're learning is that had that specific device, the $400 GPS, been installed and as required, the system would have alerted the American Airlines pilot 59 seconds before the crash that they were going to collide, and it would have alerted the helicopter crew 48 seconds beforehand. Those were significant.
Is that enough time?
I think that's a significant enough time that you can do something. I mean, when because I assumed when they realized there was a problem, they were within seconds. But 59 seconds and 48 seconds, both pilots could have done something in a minute. They could have done something.
Yank the steering wheel?
Right, do what you need to do to avert the problem. Oh, that just sounds awful.
So,
and you know, these families, you're learning that's the worst news you can hear as a family member. This was 100% preventable. I mean, that's not something that victims' families want to sit and listen to. On the other hand, the FAA had to do their investigation. NTSB did the investigation, and they were apparently thorough and come forward and honest about what they found.
We have a texter who weighed in to say that the Army helicopter was equipped with that system, but it wasn't turned on because the Army doesn't allow it to give its position. So that's another whole big issue, right?
Yeah.
If they were flying undercover, I don't know how that works, right? But I appreciate that input as well.
But you think if you're in Washington, D.C. taking off, you'd share your position. I can understand that if you're on foreign soil or headed towards something, but you
Anyway, well, we know that at least the NTSB believes it was 100% preventable, and they're angry, and I think they should be.
Yeah.
I think
well,
that's fair.
We do get to go to e-bikes. And
that's right.
I want to say that there's under this new law, there will be no drinking and e-biking at the same time. A Utah lawmaker wants to make it unlawful to drink alcohol while riding an e-bike. We'll learn more about that and other safety measures proposed on these bikes that we're seeing more and more and more in Utah when we come back.
What most people don't realize is this. If you got government Obamacare health insurance again, especially here in Utah, you're not just overpaying a premium, you're carrying most of the risk yourself. At My Policy Quote, yes, I can help reduce premiums. In fact, many families are seeing around 47% savings, even more on gold level plans. But the real issue shows up when life happens. A doctor visit, a lab work, an ER trip. The moment you hand over that blue card or any big box insurance, that's when prices jump. And with families suffering with deductibles now reaching $20,000, you're paying all of the out-of-pocket long before the insurance starts to help. My name's Mike at My Policy Quote, and I work with private insurance based on your health, not your income, so you're not forced into a one-size-fits-all coverage. That means lower overall costs, access to national PPO networks, and plans designed around how families actually use care. If you pay your own health insurance, self-employed or small businesses, call me, Mike, today. 385-367-6779. Again, that's 385-367-6779. Or visit mypolicyquote.com. That's mypolicyquote.com to get started now.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
There are many times I thought, I can't do this. I mean, what parent isn't worried about? What am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough? And then I realized, wait, that's being a parent.
Don't worry about being perfect. I've had around 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
The greatest reward for me is he makes me better every day.
I would tell a family considering adopting a teenager that teenager, whoever it is, needs you, and they need what you have to offer.
Taylor's given me hope. He's our son, and that is what he will always be.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Valentine's Day is a moment to pause and celebrate the love that fills your life. Duke's Jewelers in Springville believes every love story deserves something timeless, something chosen with intention and given from the heart. This Valentine's season, explore pieces that speak without a single word. Dazzling diamonds that catch the light, rich gold that feels classic and enduring, and colorful gemstones that tell a story all their own. Whether you're marking a first Valentine's together, honoring decades of devotion, or simply wanting to make someone feel cherished, Duke's Jewelers is here to help you find the perfect piece. Duke's Jewelers will guide you with care, offer thoughtful suggestions, and even wrap your gift beautifully so you can enjoy the moment, not stress over it. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Springville Main Street and discover a gift that will be treasured long after February 14th is passed. Because love is worth celebrating in the most meaningful way. Duke's Jewelers. Love elevated.
You served behind the desk.
You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted.
You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you.
When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on a dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country, and you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one. to a fellow veteran, to VA.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
If you're tired of hot, uncomfortable dress shirts that just don't hold up, sweat stains, stuffy collars, short tails, sound familiar? Meet your new favorite dress shirts from Serve Clothing. The game-changing design features a mesh collar shield that stops sweat stains from ruining your look. Plus, built-in vents keep you comfortable under suits and jackets, no matter the season. You'll love the extra length that stays tucked in and the antimicrobial odor-fighting fabric that keeps you fresh all day. Forget about replacing your dress shirts every 6 months. With Serve Clothing's unbeatable 2-year guarantee, you know your shirt is built to last through the toughest work days in any climate. And giving back is a priority. Last year, Serve Clothing helped to outfit more than 750 missionaries and others in need using a portion of your orders. Don't wait. Serve's shirts sold out 4 times last year. Visit serveclothing.com right now to get yours before they're gone. Serve Clothing. Dress shirts that actually serve you. serveclothing.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
I was taking stock of my garage during the break, Holly, and I remember that I have 3 motorcycles and 7 bicycles.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't have any I don't have any e-bicycles. I live up in Ogden Valley, and there's a shop or two up there that must rent them out because they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what we're about to get into here, because I think there's got to be a little more regulation on them. And as an attorney, you think, well, should they be treated like a motor vehicle for the purposes of drunk driving and traffic offenses, or should they be treated as a bicycle in terms of what side of the road you can ride on and where you can ride in terms of sidewalks and things like that? So it's something that they're getting more and more and more. We see more accidents. We see more young people involved in accidents with that. And so I think it's helpful that somebody's going to do something about it.
Well, somebody is Representative Paul Cutler, who's on the line with us. Thanks for joining us, Representative Cutler.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Fun to be with you guys.
It's fun to have you. So I just wonder if you could set up a little bit about, first of all, how do you define, as Greg was mentioning, how do you define an e-bike, and then what your bill would do?
Great. And can I start by saying our overall goals is we want more kids riding bikes. We want more kids riding bikes safely. We want more parents to understand any limitations on a device before they buy it for their kid.
Sure.
And we want to help local law enforcement be consistent on how they apply things. So today we have a mismatch of laws and regulations around e-bikes, which include pedal assist bikes, which only kick in when you pedal.
Right.
And then throttle bikes with throttles, which are called Class 2 e-bikes, and we have a mismatch of things around scooters, around other micro mobility devices. There's lots of things that have electric motors that can go really fast. And so we're looking at all these things together, saying, let's give parents better tools on what they can, so they understand, what am I buying? Am I buying my kid an e-bike? Or is this thing I'm buying really an e-motorcycle, and it can go more than 20 miles an hour? It has the same power as like a gas-powered motorcycle, and it's not legal to ride on the road today. We want parents to understand those before they buy them and before somebody rides on the road. And this bill is focusing on devices that are used on a highway. We want to leave it up to the municipalities. If it's on a path, it's on a trail, it's in a park, the local governments can decide what to do. But if it's on a highway where there's cars, there's traffic, and there's been a lot of accidents, then we need to look at that very carefully. So, which is what we're doing.
No, and I appreciate this. This is a bill that's near and dear to my heart. How do you define it? This may be unfair. What would now under this bill become a street legal bike?
So all of our pedal assist bikes are street legal. It's just a matter of there's a mismatch of regulations.
Okay.
Right now, the law says if you're riding an e-bike, you can only, and you're, say, 13 years old, you're only allowed to ride that under the supervision of a parent. Guess what? Nobody's following that.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Right. Kids are riding all over the place, and parents. It's a great way to, your kid to get to baseball practice or to soccer practice or to meet friends, so we don't have to drive them around. And it's good for kids to be out there and be independent and riding on their own, but they need to understand the rules, and we want them to be safe when they're riding on the road. So we want to open this up and say, yes, you can ride these independently without your parents' supervision. And we're using as a model what we've done in the outdoor recreation space with our four-wheelers and our side-by-sides and motorcycles that we use on trails. DNR and the Office of Outdoor Recreation has a great training program. Before you ride outside on the trails, if you're a youth, or you take a training class online and you get a little safety certificate that says, I've been trained on the rules, where I can ride, where I can't, what the rules are, when I have to wear a helmet. And it's been a wild success, we think, in terms of outdoor recreation safety improvement. So we want to do the same thing for e-bikes, and especially those throttle devices, really fast e-scooters. If you're going to ride them on your own property or in a park, that's okay. If you want to ride them on the road, you either ride them under the supervision of your parent, or if you're under 16. This is all just for kids under 16. If you want to ride them independently, we're going to offer you a class. You can take it online, low class. You may be able to, our DARE officers, police officers may offer this as part of their 6th grade DARE curriculum. You can get a safety certificate that says, hey, I've learned what the rules are for riding e-bikes and these mobility devices, and that'll help kids be safer online or on the road.
So that's the not necessarily the equivalent, but the under 16 provision to ride an e-bike. You get the certificate, and then you at least have some authority to operate the bike. Is that correct?
Exactly right. And you can be independently. You don't need an adult to be around. If you're under 16, you can take this class. And it's a great way for parents to have a conversation with their kids to say, yes, I'm getting you this e-bike. It'll allow you to go further and faster, but I want you to take this. Let's take this safety class together and learn the rules about where you can and can't ride. The other important thing we're dealing with is electric motorcycles. It's been a little unclear for electric motorcycles and these really high-powered scooters that can go more than 20 miles an hour, how should they be treated? And what this clarifies the law to say, if you're riding a device that's capable on its own with a throttle, not pedaling, but with a throttle of going more than 20 miles an hour, we're going to treat that like a motorcycle. And that means if you're riding it on the road, if it's a true electric motorcycle, you should have a driver's license and a motorcycle endorsement, just like you would with a gas motorcycle. For certain types of scooters and other we're calling them high-power mobility devices, you can either get a driver's license and a motorcycle endorsement, or you can take that safety class and get a safety certificate if you're over 16, and then you can ride it on the road.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. We have some texters weighing in, and one of them said that they feel like you have to have. Do you need to have some kind of a special license? And another one says, does this mean that police officers now can pull kids over and say, hey, you're going to get a ticket or a warning or something like this? One of our first texters said they have a real problem up in Park City and gave an example of 5 kids kind of riding side by side in the middle of the street and blocking traffic. They felt like that was really an issue.
Yeah, there's some real issues out there, and at the local police chiefs meeting, it was asked who's having trouble with e-bikes and e-motorcycles, and every police chief raised their hand and said, this is a challenge for us. So this clarifies that a police officer can't pull someone over just for riding an e-bike, but if It's a secondary reason. If they do something else that's against the law, then they can ask them if they have a safety certificate, or can educate them on, hey, you need a safety certificate, you need to be wearing a helmet, those type of things. And it also gives them power to say, hey, if they're a repeat offender, they're doing this again and again, the police officer can hold their bike and contact the parents and invite the parents down to have a conversation about it.
You mentioned helmets, and we've only got about a minute left, Representative, but Utah is one of the states that doesn't require helmets for adult motorcycle riders, but your bill does have that requirement for people under the age of 21, correct? And I think that's already the law in some respects.
It's already the law for some type of e-bikes, but not for all of them, and not for some types of scooters, but not all of them. So we're just saying, if you're under 21, wear a helmet if you're going to be on the road. If you're not on the road, then it's up to the municipality or you to decide. But if you're going to be on the road, wear a helmet, which I think is smart. Everyone would agree that's a good idea.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a great idea. This whole bill is. Thanks, Representative Cutler, and thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. We're having a little demo of the different types of e-bikes on the south steps of the Capitol today after 3 p.m.
That sounds
not too
interesting.
close to the steps, I hope.
Yeah, right.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
When we come back after the break, a South Jordan woman says her bank is holding money she kept from going to a scammer. We'll learn more from KSL investigative reporter Matt Gephardt next.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. Fire investigators are right now digging through the damaged section of a business building in West Jordan that caught fire today. West Jordan Battalion Chief Travis Ball says the building housed 4 different businesses.
We were able to get control of the fire within about an hour. This was certainly a concerted effort with our surrounding agencies.
No injuries were reported. Again, investigations still underway. KSL's top national story this hour from ABC News. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about what's taking place in Venezuela. Ann Flaherty has been monitoring the hearing for ABC News.
What we heard was the first really full-throated defense by the Secretary of State about the capture of Maduro in Venezuela. He said that, look, just 3 short weeks ago, we had a government that was very hostile toward U.S. interests. They were pirating oil around the world, selling it cheap to China, entertaining envoys from Russia, and now, look, they're dealing directly with us.
Rubio says the current leaders in Venezuela have started to release political prisoners, which was one of the demands the Trump administration made to allow them to remain in power. The Bear Lake Monster Winterfest will go forward this weekend, even with the lack of snow we've had so far. Festival organizers say there is some snow up in the mountains and people can still have a good time. It kicks off Friday with free snowmobiling, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing. In Garden City, there will also be the annual Polar Bear Plunge and the Cardboard Regatta. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 26 points, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ down just a tiny fraction. Coming up, we could see some snowflakes today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Ben Kerr was born with Cruzon syndrome, told he'd face a life of limits.
People do a lot for someone to notice them, just trying to get someone to pay attention to them. That's not your deal.
Impossible adversity didn't break him.
You will never live an ordinary life.
It fueled him.
So make it extraordinary.
Wrestling defined him. Courage shaped him. And refusing to be normal became his superpower.
We could make excuses, or we can just chew the excuses up and swallow them. And then you end up like Ben.
This is the true story of a young man who didn't just rise above the odds. He crushed them.
A local wrestler could have used his physical limitations to quit sports. Instead, he used it to his advantage.
Stand Out, the Ben Kerr story. In theaters now, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Get tickets at standoutfilm.com. When life says you can't, Ben Kerr proves you can. Standoutfilm.com.
Snapshot from Progressive wasn't created for just anybody.
Oh no, we made it for you. Gradual Breakers. You keep your eyes on the road, so you've seen it all. As long as it all happened directly in front of you, like a Swedish masseuse, your foot knows exactly the right amount of pressure to apply to the brake. That's why your passengers feel totally relaxed with you behind the wheel and occasionally super sleepy. With Snapshot, safe drivers like you get personalized rates based on your driving habits. Sign up today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I want more from my checking account. That's why I have Dream Rewards checking from Cyprus Credit Union. I earn points for making everyday purchases, paying my loans, even building my savings. Those points get me awesome rewards like cash back, gift cards, travel, and more. I'm making my everyday spending work for me. Learn more at cypruscu.com.
Cyprus Credit Union, your future is our future.
Insured by NCUA.
Traffic and weather together on KSL News Radio, brought to you by UCCU. Supercharge your savings at uccu.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
No issues on any of your major freeways or main secondaries. It's maintenance on city streets that are giving you issues. 3500 South eastbound in West Valley, you're going to see the right lane closed as you approach Bangerter Highway, and then southbound State Street, this is in Salt Lake as you come down the hill from the Capitol. Again, the right lane closed just after North Temple. Common Spirit, hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We've got a high today of 44 degrees, and we could actually get a bit of rain or snow this afternoon, but the KSL Weather Center says that storm will be small and move out quickly, and we get another week without any predicted storms. Right now, you've got mostly cloudy skies still hanging tight at 33 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, we're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
A South Jordan woman had learned that she'd been scammed out of something like $16,900 by a bank imposter. Contacted her bank, was told that they'd frozen the funds. They later denied her access to the funds, so she did what I would have done under the same circumstances. Call Matt Gephardt. And here's what he had to say about the story.
The scam was stopped before the money left the bank, so why wouldn't the bank give it back?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been really stressful, but it means a lot.
It is emotional for Kristen Fry. She was tricked into handing a scammer thousands.
How much money?
$16,900.
That is a lot of money.
I know. This was just the text message that I got.
It started with a text asking if she had just spent $437 at Target. She had not. Then her phone rang.
This is Wells Fargo's fraud department. Unfortunately, your account's been compromised.
Trying to protect herself, Kristen moved her entire balance to what she believed was a secure Wells Fargo account.
I was like, okay, this is very legit.
It was not. The caller was a scammer, and the account belonged to the crook. Kristen realized it quickly, rushed to her bank, and was told good news, the money had not yet been withdrawn.
They said your funds are still there, so immediately they froze the account.
Kristen was told to wait a few days and she'd get her money back. Instead,
your case is closed. Sorry, it's been denied.
Since then, Kristen says she has spent hours and hours on the phone with Wells Fargo, but is unable to get any answers.
That is a wild story. Yeah, and Matt is joining us on the line to talk to us about, like, I don't understand this. Thanks for joining us, Matt. But if the account was frozen, how come she can't get her money back?
I mean, that was the $16,900 question, Holly, right? Like, it's the money is sitting there. Money sitting there, give it back to her. And that does seem to be where, to her at least, and to what was being communicated to her, this thing was stuck in the works, right? Wells Fargo, for their part, I should say that I had a very good conversation with their PR people, and Wells Fargo did nothing. They're certainly not the scammers here. They didn't force this person to withdraw the money and deposit it into another account. That said, the money's sitting there, and she's being told, according to her, that it's closed. Case is closed. I don't know what to tell you. And the PR folks for Wells Fargo say, well, it was never really closed. We were always kind of working on it. We were working towards this resolution, but it's not as easy as just like giving the money back, because there's all sorts of, when these things happen, everybody's pretending to be bona fide in these situations, right? We have to verify that the victim is who they say they are. We have to verify that the other person was indeed a scammer and not Wells Fargo fraud, and those things can take a little time.
So I guess Wells Fargo, just to play devil's advocate, Matt, would understandably want to freeze it until they get to the bottom of it. But the fraud seemed fairly obvious, at least to her and to you. So Wells Fargo, you would expect their fraud department to have, come to the same conclusion and given her access to her funds again.
Yeah, and they ultimately did, and they ultimately got that straightened out in that particular way. I'll be honest with you here. I don't think I would have gotten the call from the victim had it not been for the fact that she was being told case closed. If they had, it seems like there was a communication breakdown here, certainly. But really, I'm very glad to be invited to come talk about this, because I think that there's a misconception with scams, like it won't happen to me. I'm too smart for this. And it's one of those, like we've talked about it before, about how they are targeting individuals and they learn all the stuff about you. So this is a, educated woman in South Jordan with, that kind of money in one of her bank accounts. I mean, she's somebody who's, was very suspicious, but they had all the right answers. She truly was made to believe she was dealing with a bona fide Wells Fargo fraud department person. And so she had to take this action to protect her money. And you can understand how that's a scary and unknown waters.
Yeah. So talk to us about the mechanics of the scam and why such a significant amount of money.
Okay. So it started with a text message that we all have gotten, right? Did you just spend such and such dollars at such and such institution? And sometimes we get them and we go, yeah, that was me. I just bought this product at this store, and yes, that was me. But oftentimes these are flagged, and these are computers and algorithms that notice things that are out of the ordinary, and it's flagged, and then it reaches out to us. It started with a text message that said, "Did this just happen?" Now that message of course did not actually come from her bank. It came from an unknown, spoofed number. Spoofing means where you just mask the number to look like a real number. So it's sent to her, and she goes, "Uh-oh, I didn't get this." And so she responded, "No." And then immediately her phone rings. "This is the fraud department. You didn't make that charge?" "No." "Okay. Well, then here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we protect your money. So we need to get somebody, a bad guy, has access to your account. So what we need you to do is withdraw that money and put it into this other secure account." And she's going, "Well, it's all within Wells Fargo. I'm smart enough not to run down to Western Union and send the money away, or I'm smart enough not to go buy a bunch of Apple gift cards and send them away. But it's all within Wells Fargo." So she goes and takes the money out, puts it into this other account that they're sending her all the stuff. So she thinks it's basically her new account. She's being sent things along the way of once this is established, here's how you change your password. All part of the ruse to get her to believe that this was true. Ultimately, she took the money out, put it into a bad guy's account, and then the bad guy hung up the phone and thought he had the money. She instantly knew it was a problem. She ran to her bank. She said, "Guys, help." And luckily it was late enough in the day that the scammer didn't have a chance to remove the money. So the money was frozen, and which is really the only reason she got it back. Had she waited another 20 minutes, the money could have been gone, and she could have just been out this, year's worth of mortgage payments, 2 years worth of mortgage payments. Whatever.
So, So Matt, what was the time frame? When did this happen to her?
It was last December, as I recall.
So she's still waiting, though.
Oh, no, she got it.
No.
I think he said.
No, she
ultimately
got it.
Okay.
Yeah, she ultimately got her money back. We contacted the PR person. The PR person was able to, nudge people in the right direction, and ultimately she has had her funds returned to her.
Okay, because I would be emotional too.
No, right, and when I interviewed her, she hadn't had the money back yet.
Yeah.
But you need to understand what happened to her. She's incredibly lucky. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time, the money is not recovered, and the law says if you're, there are very, very specific rules when it comes to fraud, right? When banks and credit card companies came along and said, we want to put this piece of plastic on every person in the country so they have easy access to their credit and easy access to their money, the Congress said, okay, fine, but you got to put in these benchmarks where if, a bad guy comes and takes their wallet, you, the banking institution, are responsible for that. We can't put this all on the consumers. As they passed this law, it's called Federal Regulation E, and it protects a bad guy using your credit, using your card. What it doesn't protect is social engineering. If you are tricked into removing the money and actually handing it to the bad guy, the law does not protect you there. So the fact that she got her money back, that is incredibly rare.
Wow. So we only have about a minute, but how do we as consumers, and I know we ask you this probably every time, do we trust any text or any call?
No. I mean, it's so hard because also I was a victim of actual, a bad guy got their hand on my credit card, not 2 months ago. And I was getting text messages and I was getting alerts from my credit card company. And those were actually legitimate, right? So what I did in order to verify that is I immediately went over to my computer and I sat down and I opened up my screen and I got on the actual credit card company's website and I verified that these bogus charges were actually happening. And then I was able to, not through the number that texted me, but through the actual, knowing that I was talking to the number on the back of my credit card, I was able to call them up and say, it wasn't on the back of my credit card, it was on one of my statements because my credit card was gone. But I was able to use the actual number for the actual institution, call them up, verify that these alerts were really from them, and then I was able to basically stop the fraud and get reimbursed for those fraudulent charges. But to your question, Holly, yes, you just have to be incredibly cynical. And then the best way is don't trust the person who calls you. Say, I'm sorry, thank you for calling, but I fear you could be a scammer. I'm going to call back instantly at the number that's on the back of my card. And then you're sure you're dealing with the actual institution.
Wow. Thanks so much. That was Matt Gebhardt reminding us again how sophisticated scams can be. So this doesn't have anything to do with a scam, but it is lit. It's a lit story, specifically about stop signs. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com or Google The Stern Team.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Join KSL in the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1 at the Layton NPS store at 1150 North Main Street in Layton, npsstore.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55. But unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Save more on the brands pros trust at Lowe's. Right now, get up to 35% off select major appliances and choose from our wide lineup of top brands. Plus, save $100 on a Little Giant 22-foot multi-position ladder, now just $189. Built for strength, flexibility, and job site versatility. Pros, these savings will only be here for a limited time. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 1/30 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for more details.
When I smoke weed, I get lost in the music. I like to isolate each instrument. The rhythmic bass, the harmonies on the piano, the sticky melody.
Hey, careful, babe. There's someone crossing the street.
Sorry, I didn't see him there.
If you feel different, you drive different. Don't drive high. It's dangerous and illegal everywhere. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When Team USA is on, you can almost see the moment a kid starts believing they could be next. Now, while Xfinity can't guarantee that, they can guarantee something just as important, that your internet price won't change for 5 years. No contracts or commitments, so while your kid is ordering gear online, streaming highlight reels, or video chatting, your Xfinity internet price won't budge. And who knows, by the time the next Olympic Winter Games roll around, your kid could be getting fitted for their very own Team USA uniform. And guess what? You'll still be paying the same price for reliable Wi-Fi. And there's even more to enjoy with the Xfinity Gold Medal Celebration. Now through February 22nd, get their best price on gig Wi-Fi for 5 years guaranteed. Just $50 a month, plus get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. That's a $10.99 monthly value. Xfinity. Imagine that. Proud partner of Team USA. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Actual speeds vary.
All in together now. We can make it better. Can we do it? We rope it up.
Because we know how to jump. Moving and eating better every day can help make you and your kids healthier. Search We Can online to find out more. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
Inside Sources.
Well, if you're in Sandy near Alta High School, about 110th South and 10th East, you'll see a new flashing stop sign. This comes about a week after a man was killed crossing that street. Hundreds of residents signed a petition asking for change. Here's more from KSL TV's Andrew Adams.
This was a troubled intersection.
Anybody who has crossed at 10th East and 110th South knows it's no easy walk.
There's been many close calls.
And neighbors say what happened here on January 15th.
Joshua Perry struck and killed by a drunk driver here. I think it was a big wake-up call.
Josh Carr started a petition calling for safety improvements.
Within 72 hours, we had almost 800 signatures.
But even he didn't expect changes so soon.
Today we installed the first intersection of its kind in Sandy with the LED flashing stop signs.
Flashing stop signs in place less than 2 weeks after the deadly crash.
I was coming up 10th East, and I could see this stop sign from a block and a half away.
Sandy's mayor says she listened to the hurt and the concerns.
You're not always equipped as a city to respond quickly. This was in a scheme of things that I could do as a mayor.
As the city pledges to accelerate a longer-term review here.
This is what you want to see with government and community in action together.
Carr says he's grateful for the swift steps taken already.
This has been phenomenal.
To improve the safety at this busy intersection.
I feel safer with these flashing lights where people are paying attention. This is a hard stop.
That was KSL TV's Andrew Adams story. And we have with us on the line Sandy Mayor Monica Zoltansky. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mayor.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I've seen some videos online just of showing this, flashing stop sign. It really seems to make a big difference. Tell us about, is there a plan to put this in more than one location?
Well, it's the first of its kind in Sandy, and it's a new tool that is available to cities. We just installed 4 LED flashing stop signs at the corner of 110th South and 10th East yesterday. And that is, an accelerated response due to the serious accident that occurred that took the life of one of our residents. And we wanted to move swiftly together with our community to enhance the visibility of the intersection and to do all that we can in both the short term and our long-term planning to make it safer for everyone. Whether it's going to be coming to new intersections, everybody would love one. I would love one on my street, but they're installed based on data and need, and our traffic engineers will make those recommendations.
So is this a 4-way stop? You mentioned 4 signs were put up?
Yes. Yes.
What is it, Mayor, about that particular area that makes it so troublesome?
Well, it has a surge of activity, especially with the high school right there in the corner. It's new drivers, a lot of pedestrian traffic, parents dropping their kids off from school. So it's not a busy intersection all through the day and all through the week, but it's certainly surrounding school hours. And anytime that there's a serious accident, especially in proximity to our schools, the city takes a strong look at a review of all of the safety elements in place. For a long time, this intersection has been a priority, has been slated by the city for safety enhancements. We planned for a roundabout, and we've gone to our state traffic transportation partners for funding for a roundabout, and that is scheduled for 2030. And now, of course, in light of this accident, we're moving to accelerate the planning solutions for the infrastructure improvements there. And we already have that underway. We are doing a renewed study based on community feedback. Some prefer four-way traffic stops. Some prefer just to keep the stop signs. Some want a traffic light. Some want a roundabout. So we're going to be doing a renewed review of the infrastructure improvements, and that's going to require a lot of community feedback. And so already the planning and the working group for citizen input is underway.
I have a question that I hope is not insensitive, but it sounds like the accident that happened just over a week ago, I guess less than 2 weeks ago, was a result of drunk driving. Do these flashing stop signs make a difference in that situation?
Well, I just want to be clear that no traffic control can prevent the devastating consequences from reckless or impaired driving, and we do not look at this as a fix for all the risk factors. It's important that the drivers work in conjunction with the city and observe traffic laws, and public safety and road safety is a partnership. It's all of our responsibility. So it appears the accident was a result of impaired driving, but after any serious incident, we look at all the conditions and look for ways to reinforce safety. And I think what this accident did do is it drew out a lot of frustrations from the community. Alta High School has been in existence for 40 years, and it's wonderful to have a premier school in such close walking proximity to so many neighbors. It's generations of families that live in the area that have firsthand experience. I live just up the street from Alta High School, so I know that this intersection very well. So everyone has this lived experience that gives us personal expertise, right? And so everybody chimed in as a result of this accident being in the news, the intersection. It drew out a lot of the frustrations from the community, and that's what prompted me as mayor to respond so quickly, because it matters. It matters to my residents. It's important to all of us.
I would say this in favor of what you just said, Monica, and in response to Holly's question, that even an impaired driver, I think, would be more likely to respond to something like this. You know, and so I do think it makes a lot of sense. Mayor, can you tell us about the lights themselves? Are they solar powered? How are they operated?
Yeah, they're solar powered. There's 4, one on each corner, and they've just been installed yesterday. The cost for the signs, a normal stop sign is about $100, and these are about $1,500 each. Yeah. So they're certified for traffic standard visibility. You can't just order these off Amazon. So they take time in planning and budgeting, and the city is going into its budget season right now. We're just embarking on our budget season revenues, and the Sandy's not unlike any other city. Revenues are flat this year, budgets are tight, but we do not want to compromise on public safety. So we're looking at this. We're going to be monitoring the intersection, collecting data, traffic enforcement. You see police enforcing the four-way stop routinely, but it's certainly since the accident, there's been an even stronger police presence there on the corner. So we're going to be collecting a lot of data and making our decisions moving forward and where or when to install these other areas in the city.
So in addition to flashing stoplights and roundabouts, are there other safety measures that Sandy City is looking at to prevent or decrease auto pedestrian accidents?
Well, we have crossing guards at our school zones at Alta High School, just down the hill from Alta's at the Altera Elementary School, traffic enforcement, information campaigns, education campaigns. When I first became mayor, we had a fatality on State Street and 106 South on Memorial Day weekend in 2022, and I joined forces with mayors all across the valley for a Slow Down in Your Town campaign. But it's incumbent upon every driver, every time you take the wheel, you might think you know your neighborhood, and you get very confident and relaxed, and sometimes you forget the crosswalk rules. But we're constantly reinforcing those messages. So driver education, enforcement, and raised awareness, and then design and traffic control devices. Those are the tools at our disposal.
Thank you for joining us this morning. That was Sandy Mayor Monica Zoltansky. And I would say this, Holly, there's probably no sizable city in this state that doesn't have at least one intersection that's a real problem and that someone could address. And I understand $100 versus $1,500, and so you can't certainly put it at every intersection, and it would probably defeat the purpose anyway, because the whole idea is it draws your attention.
Right.
But we'll see how that works. I'm actually interested in seeing what they look like and going by. I saw a picture of it. It makes a lot of sense. When we come back, debates have circulated about an independent investigation into the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Of course, there was the same discussion with respect to the killing of Renee Good. But there's some conflicting information that's coming out of the Department of Homeland Security. We'll discuss why an independent investigation is necessary after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Prosecutors have filed murder charges against a car burglary suspect accused of shooting a man that confronted him in Roy. New charging documents say 21-year-old Taylor Gardner shot 58-year-old Kenneth Keller after Keller confronted and tackled him on Westlake Drive on Sunday. Keller died at the hospital. Police say Gardner later told them he was on probation, and he and his friend were breaking into cars to find things to pay off their court fines. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The world's largest online retailer is announcing another round of big layoffs today. ABC's Alex Stone reports.
Amazon announcing 16,000 jobs are being cut at the company. It's the latest round after 14,000 Amazon workers were laid off in October. This round is the biggest at Amazon since 2023, when 27,000 jobs were lost to the company. Amazon's workforce doubled during the pandemic as millions of Americans stayed at home and bought items online. But since the pandemic, tech companies have been cutting back to bring spending in line, and many tech companies have cited the increasing role of AI as a reason why human jobs are being reduced. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 11 points, the S&P is down 7 points. And coming up, light snow showers possible. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has been Utah's most trusted name for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical services. Got a high-price repair bill from another company and you're just not sure about it? Call Whipple. Get a free no-pressure estimate or bring in their quote for an honest second opinion totally free. Whipple Service Champions is Utah's first place for second opinion since 1947. Call 385-273-7167 for your free estimate today. 385-273-7167.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. Brought to you by UCCU. Transfer savings, earn more. UCCU, love where you bank. Here's Tito Nani.
Traffic moving very well, going both directions this hour on I-15 between Provo and Ogden. No issues or slowdowns to report. Elsewhere throughout the valley, I-215, I-80, and the 21st South Freeway, all trouble-free at the moment. Visit the Boat Show and Water Sports Expo Thursday through Sunday, January 29th through February 1st at the Mountain America Expo. Buy tickets online at utahboatshow.com. Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 44 today with cloudy skies. We could see some light snowfall, but it won't accumulate. The sun is back tomorrow. We'll see partly cloudy skies through the weekend. Right now it is 34 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit House Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
There's obviously been a surge of public concern over the recent ICE-related shootings, including the most recent one of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Of course, that followed the shooting of Renee Good not far away, and it's prompted a lot of calls, Holly, for transparency and whether or not state and federal officials should work together. And the questions come up about the circumstances of both of these shootings. The Department of Homeland Security has been sort of given a little bit of information about it, but not a lot. Here's ABC's Matt Rivers with more.
At no point in the report does DHS say that Preddy attempted to reach for his weapon, because remember that's what they said initially. Well, they now say that didn't happen. And the DHS timeline doesn't mention at all that Preddy was disarmed before he was shot, which is what we've seen in the videos, that his gun was taken away from him before he was shot.
So, sometimes, Greg, when I listen to you talk, it's like, oh, I can tell you're an attorney. Because you're just so... it has raised some concerns. I would say there is outrage across the nation, right? And that people they're so tired of having the government immediately, especially DHS, but immediate statements without having anything, right? I mean, people were calling Preddy an assassin out to take out officers literally before I think his body was off the street. I mean, it's really, to me, it's outrageous. So you're very measured.
It's so foreign to those of us that have been involved and are involved in officer-involved critical incidents when you hear anything like what we're hearing from Border Patrol. Because usually, I mean, and I've done, I don't know how many of these, I don't even want to count them, but there's a drawback period where law enforcement says we're looking into it.
Right.
The officer involved has been put on administrative leave. An independent agency is going to do the investigation, but we're going to share that with the home investigation agency. And I mean, we do things really well in Utah, and I'm sure they do in Minneapolis as well. But when the feds and the state can't get along, and I haven't seen that, I really haven't seen that, except in very, very rare instances in my experience. But not sharing information, I haven't seen at all.
Right. We haven't. I would say Utah had probably the highest profile killing in the country last year with Charlie Kirk here, and there was cooperation between the FBI and the state, and yet in Minnesota we're not seeing a lot of that. So we actually have with us Jay Evenson. He's the opinion editor for the Deseret News, and the Deseret News editorial board just published an opinion piece about having this objective investigation. So thanks for joining us this morning, Jay.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. We actually published this piece. We published a piece after Renee Good's killing and asked for the same thing.
Yeah.
We need an objective investigation. You know, our editorial page, one of the things that we have been fighting against for years now is something we call instant certainty, which is such a big part of our political discourse right now, where we automatically think we know what happened because of who was involved, and in some cases because of their political ideology. And that does not serve justice well at all. We need to approach any type of incident like this with our minds open and consider the evidence and involve local authorities in considering that as well. And I think we've really failed in these instances.
Yeah, and we're really getting almost more than just a failure. We're getting a refusal of agencies to cooperate with each other. And Jay, that's not something that I see, and I appreciate your editorial here, because when there's a shooting, no matter who's at fault, and law enforcement is involved, you've got to get down to the bottom of it and figure out what happened and why.
You know, the public automatically wonders, well, what are you trying to cover up? Why do you not want to cooperate? Are you trying to protect a certain description of events as you want them to be seen, rather than see what the truth is? And we're seeing, I think, some of this now resulting in calls for Kristi Noem to resign, and some Republicans are even breaking ranks and also joining in those calls. So the good thing about democracy is that when the people become outraged, their representatives reflect that. And hopefully we can see some change here in the administration's posture on these events.
So, Jay, you mentioned a couple of our federal elected officials who are also calling for this independent investigation. Do you want to mention them?
Well, yes. Senator Todd Curtis and Representative Blake Moore have John Curtis, have called for an independent investigation. And Senator Curtis said that it weakens confidence to have people dismiss incidents before facts are known. In fact, he said officials who rush to judgment before all the facts are known undermine public trust and the law enforcement mission. And I think we agree with that wholeheartedly.
And I think it's fair to say that falling on the heels of the Renee Good shooting by similar agents, and recognizing, Jay, that even that case, we seem to have be stonewalled between the feds and the state, and there hasn't been a sharing of information. So it's not like, it's not like this is coming out of the woods, because at least in Minnesota right now, that sharing isn't happening, and it's causing all kinds of consternation. But I would say there seems to be at least a little wiggle on the part of the administration in backing off. They did move their Homeland Security guy out of there, and maybe there's some good news here.
Well, and the president did have a telephone call with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, which he characterized as being very helpful and good. And in fact, both of them said that. That's a positive move as well, and we'll have to watch in the next day or two to see what happens here.
So, Jay, just one of the things that strikes me, we've talked about lack of cooperation, but you actually had to have a Minnesota law enforcement agency go to a judge to get an order to preserve evidence. That seems wild to me.
I can't remember any time when that would have happened. I mean, there have been times where you kind of detect a rivalry maybe between the FBI and local law enforcement. But this, I think, is unprecedented in my lifetime concerning some type of a big event like this.
Jay, I'm just watching News Nation, and there's a breaking news that the Border Patrol agent involved in the shooting has been placed on leave. So that seems to be a step that somebody's doing something.
Had not happened.
At the outset, we were being told we weren't even going to know who was involved in it. But there seems to be something going on here. And I think it's in response to a lot of things that are happening, including editorials like yours, where the public is telling the administration, hey, we need to have some transparency. We need to get some things done.
Well, we hope what we write has some effect, but I think it's public opinion. We reached some kind of a tipping point over the weekend with this shooting of Alex Preddy, and I think a lot of regular people, a lot of Trump supporters are seeing this and saying, no, this just isn't right. And when there's a move in the public, like I said, their representatives are aware, and things start to change. So, like I said, we'll have to see in the next couple of days what happens, but there does seem to be a movement in that direction.
Yeah, thanks so much. I am looking at a report on, this is on X, but it was about Senator Rand Paul. He's been pretty outspoken about this issue as well, too. And he was on Fox Business, and this is what he said. There has to be an investigation. I don't know who trusts an investigation done by DHS when they're the ones calling this person an assassin, a domestic terrorist, and saying he was assaulting the police. How can they be in charge of an independent investigation? It does feel a little bit like I don't know if the dam is breaking, but at least there are people saying, look, there's a line and you've crossed it.
It's true. And when you lose the confidence of the public in a federal department, I think that's a big thing. And the administration has to make some moves in order to restore that confidence. And whether that means removing Kristi Noem or not, I don't know. But I think those decisions will have to be made fairly quickly here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. That was Jay Evenson, opinion editor for the Deseret News. And look, related to this, we've talked a lot this week about the Second Amendment because Alex Preddy was legally carrying a firearm. We are going to be joined next by a constitutional studies professor to talk more deeply about that issue.
Amanda, I took my daughter with me to see Frozen at Hale Center Theater, and it was a magical experience. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but it was magical. I watched a woman transform a dress in a second right in front of my own eyes. I got snowed on indoors. Plus, there was all the songs that we both loved.
Yeah, when that ice castle comes out of the floor, I have goosebumps now just thinking about that moment. And the performers, the young girls who sing Elsa and Anna when they're little. I mean, the grown-up ones too, but all of them were just extraordinary.
The Anna that I saw just had this magical pixie-like charm that was so fun to watch. That just everything she said made me laugh.
Have you seen Frozen yet at Hale Center Theater? It runs till when, Andy?
It goes till Valentine's Day.
So you have time.
Yeah, if you didn't catch it during the holiday season, that's okay. It's an extended run. You have a chance to go now.
And if you went before, maybe you want to take your girlfriend or your nieces. Go back and have this magical experience of Frozen.
You can get tickets online. Find out which day works best for you at hct.org.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But, try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
Did you know bad bacteria causes cavities and tooth decay? Did you know bad bacteria feed off residue left by sugary foods and drinks? Keep your family healthy. Your smile matters.
Be sure to brush 2 times daily for at least 2 minutes with fluoride toothpaste.
Floss once a day and limit sugary foods and drinks like sweetened juices, candies, and sodas.
Even sugar-free carbonated drinks can be harmful to teeth. Be sure to visit your dentist for regular checkups and cleanings. If you don't have a dentist, visit yoursmileutah.org for more information on community dental services. This message is brought to you by Utah Oral Health Coalition, Utah Dental Association, University of Utah School of Dentistry, the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, and other Utah health partners. Remember, a healthy smile means a healthier life. Learn more at yoursmileutah.org.
Because your smile matters.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
There's danger out there. It lurks on highways and quiet neighborhood streets. It's more likely to kill you than a shark and more terrifying than the biggest snake. Distracted driving claims lives every day. Every notification, swipe, social post, video, or selfie while driving risks your life. So while you might think public speaking or the zombie apocalypse is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The new Inside Sources.
We've been speaking quite a bit this week about the shooting of Alex Preddy in Minnesota and the concerns raising around the Second Amendment as the Trump administration has claimed that Preddy should not have been carrying a gun at the protest. And in the last 24 hours, President Trump has said he shouldn't have been carrying a gun at all.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident, okay? Right. Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate incident.
And yesterday, I think, and this is a little bit hard to hear, he talked about the same thing outside of Air Force One. You have to kind of listen closely to this one.
You know, you can't have guns. You can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
Listen, you can't walk in with guns. You can't do that. But it's just a very unfortunate incident.
Now, Minnesota authorities say that he was a legal gun owner, had a permit to carry, and like Utah, they seem to have an open carry law that allows people to carry as long as it's open.
There was no indication ever that he brandished that. So I do have to point out this one thing from the NRA. So they were a little squishy, actually, in their first statement after Preddy was known to be a legal gun owner. But they have come out unequivocally, and this is what they say. This is on X. The NRA unequivocally believes that all law-abiding citizens have a right to keep and bear arms anywhere they have a legal right to be. And so I think that specifically addresses this situation. What we have right now, though, with us on the line is Matthew Brogdon, Dr. Brogdon of UVU Center for Constitutional Studies, and he's here to talk to us about the constitutional take on this specific issue, specifically the Second Amendment. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Brogdon.
Thank you for having me.
I think we could go through the entire Bill of Rights here with you in terms of what's going on, but let's start with number 2 and talk to our listeners, because there's sort of competing argument here about should he have not carried a gun, and what is the current status? I mean, what do you understand the law to be in Minnesota, maybe even in Utah, with respect to open carrying, and when a person can and can't carry a weapon?
The vast majority of states that allow the open or concealed carry of firearms at public gatherings put no limits, special limits, on the ability of people to carry those at protests or in circumstances like those that Mr. Preddy was engaged in. The exception is Maryland has a law that limits the carrying of firearms at protests, in part in response to the danger that firearms could come into use in those contexts with crowds present. But that's currently being litigated. The Supreme Court's actually going to decide a related case from Hawaii this term, and I would imagine some of those issues arising out of Maryland's law will be litigated in the circuit courts. So we will very likely get a judicial answer to that question in the coming year or two.
So one of the issues that we've talked about a lot on our show this week is really this idea that he was executed for having a firearm. I don't even know if that's why they shot him, but how does that play in with the Second Amendment that I think is so foundational to the founding of our country? And now we have people who used to be, I would say, pro-Second Amendment who are now like, well, but not in that case.
Well, it's clearly a case of Preddy's exercise of Second Amendment rights as the court currently understands that. And for that matter, leaving the Constitution aside, Minnesota very clearly allowed the legal possession and carry of a firearm in this instance. And when a citizen is doing something they have a legal right to do, it's very difficult for the government to then argue that they can respond to that with force or violence. We do also have a collision of two really significant interests here. We have traditionally afforded quite a lot of deference to law enforcement when they confront armed persons and feel that they are threatened. Law enforcement officers usually receive a fair degree of deference when they use force in response to those situations because they have broad discretion to defend themselves from a threat. On the other hand, we have a right that is recognized both constitutionally and by state legislation in many states that allows citizens to carry firearms in these contexts. So we really have two competing legal principles at work here. Usually when we have those kinds of competing principles, the Constitution wins.
You know, Professor Brogdon, we had a similar situation here in Utah at that No Kings rally in June where an individual was openly carrying a firearm, and he was shot. He wasn't killed, and it wasn't by law enforcement. Right. It was by a security officer. We had a gun advocate with us who really made it sound as though, as long as it's in a public place, you can't restrict openly carrying a gun. I mean, in private, you can't walk into certain businesses with a gun if they want to make themselves a gun-free zone. But I mean, and I'm sort of being rhetorical here, but do you see any wiggle room, because we've had now 2 shootings in a short period of time at public events for people who are openly carrying? I mean,
what the court has not answered is whether openly carrying a firearm, as distinguished from carrying one concealed, is part of the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. There's an obvious risk when people openly carry a firearm that people may perceive the sight of it as a threat, or perhaps even a person carrying a firearm openly may inadvertently behave in a way that someone perceives as brandishing the firearm or pointing it at someone. Anyone who's spent time at a gun range knows how much presence of mind it takes to use a gun safely and keep it pointed in the right direction. So you can imagine if someone's carrying especially a rifle that's not holstered or stored on the person in some way, people are just carrying the gun around, it's quite easy to use it in such a way that it could be perceived as a threat, even if you don't intend it that way. So that is a real risk. Some states have limited the open carry of firearms in these contexts. And as I said, Maryland has experimented with a law that would prevent the carrying of firearms at protests and other public demonstrations to avoid those kinds of situations. Whether those will pass constitutional muster, I think, is uncertain. But if there is wiggle room, it certainly would rest with the ability to limit the open as opposed to concealed carry, and perhaps that would solve some of the problem.
Do you have a constitutional opinion / viewpoint about the president saying he shouldn't have had a gun?
As just a general blanket statement, that's in pretty significant tension with the Second Amendment statement that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If that depending on the context in which that statement's made, you could, of course, say if a person brandished a firearm in a courtroom, you'd certainly say, well, they shouldn't have had a gun. But that's very much dependent on circumstances.
It does seem like some states, I think it was New York and others, have tried to limit gun possession. I think New York City tried to have and I'm probably talking out of my head here, Professor Brogdon, the Supreme Court has continually, or at least seemingly, shut down attempts by jurisdictions to limit the ability of a person to carry a firearm. And that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon.
No, that is not going to change. I do think the mode of carry matters. I think there are two issues here. You refer to the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, in which the court said that New York could not limit who had access to concealed weapons permits. So they could require a permit to carry a weapon concealed, but they couldn't limit it without very good reasons to specific people. So that was based on a general right to bear arms, and this is very important. The First Amendment not only allows you to keep or possess a firearm, but to bear it, which the courts understood and is reasonably understood to be to carry it with you. Now, the other place where we have some real dispute is when you carry a firearm, even if you have a right to carry it, there are limits on your use of it. So if you handle it irresponsibly or you brandish it or you threaten someone with it, the fact that you had a right to possess the firearm doesn't tell you whether you had a legal right to do what you're doing with it. So there's still a lot of legal responsibility that attaches to the individual in their use or display of a firearm when they're carrying it legally. So there's quite a lot of, you could imagine this as a bit of a corollary to the First Amendment. You have a right to speak your mind, but if in fact you commit slander or libel, what you say might actually be punishable. So similarly here, the fact that you can carry the firearm doesn't mean you can do anything with it. So I think states do have a lot of room to make some clearer rules about when you can display the firearm, when you can carry it openly as opposed to concealed. And I would imagine the court would be more amenable to those kinds of narrowly tailored regulations as opposed to blanket bans on carrying a firearm at a protest. I very much doubt, under the court's current case law, that a law simply banning the possession of a firearm at public demonstrations would pass constitutional muster.
Yeah. Professor, do you mind staying with us? We want to shift gears when we come back after this break.
Happy to. Thank you.
11:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A major water user operating on the Great Salt Lake has been shut down and bought out. U.S. Magnesium went bankrupt, and the state just bought their assets and water rights for $30 million, according to court records obtained by the Salt Lake Tribune and Grist. It's unclear if the water U.S. Magnesium was using will stay in the lake from now on. The lakes hit the third lowest level in recorded history a few months ago. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. On Capitol Hill today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is answering questions about the U.S. military operation in Venezuela. Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts wondered about the deal to transfer millions of barrels of Venezuelan oil to the U.S. and asked where that money from the oil will go.
There may be some program through foreign aid that some of you might be interested in the future. We don't think that Venezuela is the kind of country that needs that. This is a very wealthy country.
Thank you. I'm glad you restated that, because I think that we will see some moment when the administration says, let's subsidize our American oil companies to rebuild the infrastructure in Venezuela. And I must say that's a very unpopular idea among my constituents. I think America needs a lot of investments in infrastructure here, and I think you have a way too rosy sense of the oil economy there.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife are currently being held in New York facing drug and terrorism charges. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 12 points. The S&P is down 4 points. And coming up, cloudy skies. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:33.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Thursday on KSL. Artificial intelligence is making it tougher than ever to spot a scam.
Like an idiot, I just kept sending money.
But can you turn to technology to keep you safe?
The KSL investigators put some of the top scam detection apps to the test.
See what they catch.
Well, it's asking the right questions, right?
Yeah. And what they miss. Uh-oh.
And it froze.
AI Revolution, scanning for scams. Thursday at 10.
At CertaPro Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights, at home or at work. We'll make your happy place your own. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
Well, hunting season's over.
Not for me.
Say what?
I'm on huntexpo.com applying for Utah's top 200 big game tags for just $5 each.
Wait, Utah's top 200 tags, $5? Come again?
Yep, it's all part of the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo in Salt Lake City, February 12th through the 15th. Wow, look at this. Nearly 600 guides, outfitters, and exhibitors.
So we could book a hunt while we're there.
Exactly. Plus big auctions, big banquets. There's live entertainment, even free seminars from top hunting pros.
Oh, I see. And we can get discounted admission at Sportsman's Warehouse, Les Schwab Tires,
Bass Pro Cabela's,
and Utah Toyota dealers.
Yeah, hunting opportunities are endless at the Hunting Expo.
All right, huntexpo.com. I'll get the tickets.
Yeah, okay.
Apply for the $5 tags and book a hotel room. Oh, yeah, we could sign up for all kinds of seminars.
Your hunt starts at the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo and huntexpo.com.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. Brought to you by UCCU. Supercharge your savings at uccu.com. Here's Tito Nani.
We have a mostly steady drive this hour on I-15. However, there is an accident in Provo on southbound I-15. It's 1 mile before the 1400 north exit, and it looks to be blocking off the right shoulder. Elsewhere, it appears we have maintenance on Bangerter Highway traveling northbound at 3500 south. The outer right lane and shoulder are blocked off. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see mostly cloudy skies today. There's a chance for a light snow shower, but no storms. The rest of the week, we're looking at partly cloudy skies, and we could see some inversion come back this weekend. Right now, it's 34 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit House Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're back with Professor Matthew Brogdon from UVU's Center for Constitutional Studies. And Professor Brogdon, I want to talk to you about the separation of powers. And maybe from a federal level, we have certainly an executive branch which has really become a super legislator with executive orders, a legislature that doesn't seem to be reeling him in much, and a judiciary that doesn't seem to be doing that either. But even on the state level, our legislature has become quite powerful here. They have a supermajority, and they are now trying to rein in the courts, it seems. Does that concern you at all?
Well, it is interesting once you note that we have something of a converse situation at the states. The federal level is plagued by fights over the extent of executive power, while the states tend to be more marked by legislative supremacy. It's always a difficult thing to navigate separation of powers issues because the American constitutional tradition does clearly draw a line between legislative, executive, and judicial powers. Those functions are different things in our constitutional tradition, and they are supposed to be held separate. But there are obviously areas where those powers start to either encroach on each other or where the line between them becomes somewhat hazy. I think we face that in a lot of areas. At the state level, the Utah legislature has quite a bit more ammunition in the state constitution than Congress does in terms of claiming supremacy in certain areas. And that's not uncommon in states. Many states really buttress the legislative power in a very strong way. It is also the case that in states, the executive doesn't have the foreign policy power and commander-in-chief powers that often form a very extensive source of executive power.
So let me ask you a question about maybe the proper role of courts in the political process. And you can speak either to the state or the national level. What role do they and should they play?
Well, courts are supposed to administer our laws. That looks different in different contexts, but certainly the most clear-cut instance of this that everyone's familiar with is in the context of criminal laws, where we have a legislature that defines crimes. You have an executive that enforces them, that is, apprehends people who are breaking them, and then a judicial process that determines whether, in fact, the law has been broken and whether the person involved is responsible for that violation of law. That's really the sort of clear case of where the line between the judicial and executive powers on the one hand and the legislative power on the other lies. Many other contexts, that case is not so clear. So whenever we get into fraught areas, such as fights over line drawing, redistricting, whenever we get into questions of constitutionality, not just the enforcement of the laws as written, but whether those laws themselves are constitutionally legitimate, that's when we get into real controversy and a great deal of gray area about where the judicial function ends and the legislative function begins. It can quickly become the case that when judges declare a thing unconstitutional and say, well, what the legislature has done there doesn't comport with the Constitution, the question becomes what to do. And quite often it's tempting for courts to then substitute their own judgment, to say, well, you can't do that, but here's something you can do instead. And as soon as courts get into the area of providing their own remedy or their own policy in place of what they found is an unconstitutional policy by the legislature, that's when we begin to get claims of legislating from the bench and so forth. We can find lots of examples of that in federal constitutional law, but in states as well. And that's just one species or one way that this dispute arises, and we get some real gray areas.
Yeah, and there's also a bit of a gray area right now in Utah with respect to what we're calling citizen-led ballot initiatives, because you talk about the legislative function, you talk about the judicial function, but then we have the citizens jumping in and the legislature saying, no, you can't do that, and the judiciary saying, well, yes, they can. They can. There's a real problem right now with that here in Utah, and that leads us to the whole redistricting issue, because it all started with a citizen-led ballot initiative.
That's right. The Utah Constitution, like a lot of Western states, by the way, this is a Western states thing. The Utah Constitution provides that citizens can pass their own laws without the involvement of the legislature, what we call initiated statutes. That is not common in the eastern half of the country. It was really something that marked states that came into the Union around the turn of the 20th century. And we think of them as sort of direct democracy. The people can make their own laws without having the legislature intervene. The Utah Constitution very carefully says that the legislative power of the state is vested both in the legislature in the form of the House and Senate, but also in the people through initiated statutes. And those are both called the legislative power. And the opportunity for the courts to get involved is really created by the fact that when the citizens act through initiated statute, they're passing legislation. And then when the legislature next meet, they also have the legislative power. And typically, a legislature can overturn its own previous acts. So the legislature this year could repeal an act they passed last year. And so if both of those bodies, the people through initiated statutes and the legislature through its institutional form, can both legislate, then presumably one can overturn the acts of the other, or ignore them, or amend them, or modify legislative supremacy.
That is...
and
go ahead.
That conflict is where you get the opportunity for the court to step in and decide, well, is there a limit to the legislature's ability to review or revise the legislature's effort to amend or perhaps even set aside the people's initiated statutes?
Super interesting. And we only have about a minute and a half left, but I wanted to switch gears and ask you about civics education standards. I know that you have been involved in helping draft those. Can you just briefly tell us what you would like to see in Utah schools?
I would like to see a broad civics education requirement that acquaints students with our constitutional tradition and with the core documents, ideas, institutions of our constitutional tradition. I think it's especially important, especially at the K-12 level, to ground civic education in the Constitution, partly because it's what Americans hold in common. We disagree about a lot of things, but Americans agree that our Constitution is essentially a sound form of government. People want to keep it. That's true across the political spectrum. We argue over how it ought to be applied. And so I think the soundest way for us to approach civic education is to use that as the centerpiece of how we educate students and then move outward from there.
Thank you so much for joining us today. That was Dr. Matthew Brogdon of UVU's Center for Constitutional Studies. And when we come back, I have fun facts for you today.
Good.
So stay with us over the break.
If you're getting new gutters, make absolutely sure that you don't get screwed. I mean literally, don't get screwed. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And every single gutter company out there uses screws to hold their gutters together at the corners and downspouts. They use screws because they're fast and cheap and easy, but man, they're terrible for your gutters, aside from possibly cutting your hand. They also loosen and corrode over time because they're not made from the same metal as the gutters. At RGS Exteriors, we've been installing gutters for 70 years now, and we don't use screws. We only use permanent, strong, and unobtrusive rivets. They're made from the same material as the gutters, so they won't oxidize and they won't corrode. They'll also never loosen. Your hand is safe too. Did I mention they look amazing? So don't get screwed. Call RGS and get riveted gutters. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsutah.com.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. In Delta, Utah, Creekstone Energy is developing the Creekstone Gigasite, one of the world's largest AI-ready data center and energy campuses. Designed for reliability and low water use, the project brings long-term investment and jobs to Utah. CEO Ray Connolly joins us with more.
The Creekstone Gigasite is our flagship development, an AI-ready data center and energy campus designed for long-term operation in rural Utah. It integrates power generation, transmission, and digital infrastructure to support advanced artificial intelligence workloads critical to the U.S. economy. Our focus is deliberate, responsible development with a long-term commitment to Utah. The Gigasite will generate 10 gigawatts of power. In partnership with Energy Solutions, we're also evaluating at least 2 additional gigawatts of next-generation nuclear with a target of another 10 gigawatts of new generation over time, essentially doubling Utah's current capacity. Delta is ideal. It is located next to major transmission assets like the Intermountain Power Plant and at the crossroads of key regional fiber routes. The site supports the right energy mix: solar, natural gas, and existing baseload power. Our data centers are designed to be essentially waterless, keeping critical infrastructure working and supporting local jobs.
Projects like the Creekstone Gigasite highlight Utah's leadership in energy, infrastructure, and innovation. Learn more at creekstoneenergy.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Put your phone on D&D, that means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D, that means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
So it's that time of the show when we talk about fun facts and things that are happening and that did happen on this day. But there was a really tragic thing that happened 40 years ago today that I think a lot of people hadn't realized was that long ago.
Well, if you're old like us, right?
Yeah, I remember it.
Right. We were talking before the show. We're talking about the Space Shuttle Challenger, that disaster. It broke up 73 seconds after liftoff. So before the show, one of our young people in studio was saying, "Oh, my mom was 10," and I'm like, "Oh, well, I was 21 years old and newly engaged." So I actually remember And I remember sitting in front of the little television set in my college dorm room and just watching this happen. And the fact that it's been 40 years, we learned a lot from that after that happened. But yeah, 40 years ago today, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded.
And 73 seconds into the flight meant that the cameras, the long-range cameras, were still able to photograph what was happening. And they were still following the craft that was going up. And then all of a sudden, this explosion. And I mean, there was just dead silence because people are like, what just happened?
What just happened? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people are still on the ground sort of cheering.
Oh, yeah.
And it was...
It's barely after a minute, right? I mean, it's not long at all. So, of course, all 7 crew members were killed in that. And, you know, one of the things that came out of that is like when I was doing my PhD program, we talked about the value of dissent and the role that can play. Because one of the things that happened is they did this investigation, and it was a Utah company that was responsible for manufacturing the O-rings that were part of this problem that ended up happening. They had not been tested at cold temperatures and cold enough temperatures. And there were people, this all came out afterwards, there were engineers who felt like they had concerns, but they either weren't listened to or they didn't feel like they could speak. They didn't have the quote-unquote authority to speak up, right? And so when I was doing my PhD program, we were talking about the value of dissent. One of the things they talked about is groupthink and the dangers of groupthink, that when one person in authority especially says, hey, we're good to go, or we're going this direction, then people are afraid to speak up. And so things have changed significantly in some conversations. Like you can have a designated naysayer, right? And you can say, okay, for this meeting, you're going to tell me all the problems you see with this, right? So you can say, for example, we have an open door policy and you can give me any concerns. But if you punish the people who come to you with concerns, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, right. You don't truly have an open door policy.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me, the technology that we have today, that a shuttle blows up and almost disintegrates, but authorities are still able to piece what they find back together enough to recognize and theorize what really happened, which was an O-ring. Like how do they do that?
If you remember the stories, well, that's a good question. And then they obviously did a really in-depth investigation. But if you remember the stories, in Florida that day, it was Florida. It wasn't the space temperature they were worried about, but Florida was really, really cold. And that's where they started to get the opposition. And now we have a name. There was Brian Russell. He was an official at Morton Thiokol, which was the company that built these O-rings. They were concerned, and they had managers who said, okay, we understand the concern, but then because of pressure from NASA, they backed off of it.
Yeah, we got to get this ship off the ground. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, they got to get the ship off the ground. So it was a sad day 40 years ago. I remember that. And kind of like we talked earlier in the show about the collision over Washington, D.C. last year. Sometimes it takes a tragedy and people dying for people to say, okay, wait a minute, we have to take another look at this.
And I'm digressing a little bit, but there was a recent rocket that blew up. I think maybe it was one of Elon Musk's projects, but after we put
unmanned.
We put people on the moon like a zillion years ago, but we still have little glitches, little things that can happen. You know what I mean? But it makes me marvel at what we were able to do. The stars absolutely lined up for that particular event.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have a texter who weighed in, and there's a couple of us actually, but one weighed in and said, I was in junior high when it happened. It affected me a lot. My science teacher was going to use the lessons that teacher on board was going to teach. That's Krista McAuliffe. Unfortunately, it never happened. And another one says that they remember they were in the back of an ambulance with a patient being transported from Vernal to the VA hospital in Salt Lake. My patient they said it was very traumatic during that. So really, it's one of those moments for me where it's the whole, where were you when this happened? I mean, I remember that moment pretty clearly.
Yeah, and it was really exciting for our young people because there was a teacher on the
I
show.
know.
And
the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really sad.
40 years ago.
So I have some more fun facts about this day. So today's Lego Day. And the reason is because on this day in 1958, the Lego company actually patented their design for their famous bricks. And one of the things that I've learned, but it's a really hard habit to break, is it's not Legos. It's just Lego. There's not an S on it. So there's Lego bricks and there's a Lego company, but it's not Legos.
There you go.
But I keep saying it. And if you've ever stepped on one in the dark, you're like, oh my gosh, these things are terrible weapons.
I was never a Lego person. And I think that when I see them, I play with them. But when I don't know, as a kid, we just didn't have them.
Yeah. So I have another fun story. This was 1985. So 41 years ago, if you remember that song, We Are the World, it was a charity single recorded by the quote-unquote supergroup USA for Africa in 1985. So this was right in the middle of the Ethiopian famine that was so bad in the 80s. Right. And they did it to raise money, right? So it was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, and they used it to raise money for famine relief in Ethiopia. They sold over 20 million physical copies back when we used to have physical records, right? And then they used it for famine relief, of course.
I just remember Michael Jackson being part of that, and the
Yeah.
whole they were singing. And
I know
it was a really
we all
beautiful
sang.
thing.
It's so catchy, right?
Right.
It's so catchy. So I have another fun fact. So Alan Alda, do you remember him?
From MASH.
MASH. That's how I associate him. I don't know if he ever did anything else, which I think he did actually.
I forget his name in MASH, but anyway.
Wasn't he Hawkeye?
No.
No, he's not Hawkeye.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
There was Hawkeye
Anyway,
in
he's
here.
90 years old today. Today's his birthday. And I saw something on social media that he's in a wheelchair now, but he really wanted to go to the beach. And what they ended up doing, his daughter, I think, they were able to get him to the beach in his wheelchair and get 3 remaining members from the original MASH cast to come to the beach with him. And there's pictures. They're all really old.
One of my favorite shows of all time. I
Oh,
probably
me.
watched
And
100 episodes.
do you remember the very last episode of MASH? It was the most watched episode, I think, in TV history at the time, and I watched it. We had a watch party at
you
at
had to
college.
watch that
Yeah.
one.
It was sad. So if you remember the inauguration in 2021, we were still pandemic. Everything was outside. People had to socially distance. And do you remember Bernie Sanders? What was he doing? Do you remember him?
I remember he was sort of huddled up there wearing his winter clothes. It looked like he was freezing cold.
He looked like he was angry,
right,
too.
Yeah,
Grumpy
not,
old
not
man,
real
right?
happy, right? Yeah.
So he was sitting there with his arms crossed. He had a hat on. He had these mittens on. And then people, for some reason, they took that and it just became a meme that went everywhere. And I saw some really great ones. I saw one that was Bernie Sanders sitting on a couch in an LDS chapel, right? I mean, and you just had
Wearing
him
those
everywhere.
clothes?
Wearing
Yeah.
those clothes,
Yeah.
right? The hat and the mittens and stuff. Well, it was on this day in 2021, so shortly after, just basically a week after the inauguration, those mittens sold for $1.8 million. And then
For a charity or
that
something,
money
wasn't
was
it?
donated to a Vermont charity. Yeah, but it just blew up. It went crazy viral, and he brought in almost $2 million for charities in Vermont.
Good for him.
Those
That
are my
was-
fun facts.
Yeah, that was interesting. I remember
right.
that very well, just watching him and just he kind of almost seemed like he was sitting by himself, bundled up like that. Well, that's it for Inside Sources today. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next with all the news you need to know. Stay with us right here on KSL News Radio, and we will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL